Good evening everybody and welcome to the last day of school for the ASR Supercars 2024 field. It is the 11th round of the season, the final two race hit out for the year, races 24 and 25, and it's around the concrete jungle of the Adelaide Parklands Circuit. It's been one of the traditional finishing rounds of the season for years gone past. In some cases it's also been the opening round of years gone past. But nonetheless, it doesn't diminish from the challenge that presents itself. Two 100-kilometre races around the fabled streets of the Adelaide city's outskirts itself. My name is Steve DeVries. Opposite me, as always, and for the last time in 2024, is Benjamin Roadie Rhodes. Roadie, the development series raced around these streets approximately 7 days ago. It was a single 125-kilometre run. Tonight, it's a pair of 100-kilometre races. What's going to happen? I don't know, but you've got a little bit of insight because you did race last week. So what do you think's going to happen?
Well, first of all, good evening to everyone watching along at home, or good morning, afternoon, depending on where you're watching this from, or if you're watching this back later on. And I will say it's appropriate that we're using races 24 and 25 to finish out 2024 and ultimately ran in 2025 in a few months' time. But yes, I was on track here 7 days ago, and it was a pretty good race to end the Development Series Championship. Both drivers contending for titles had them basically sewn up. It would have taken a small miracle for either driver in racing for second in the championships to have overcome them. But no, it was pretty good racing, and look, it's probably expecting more of the same for the Supercars. The difference will be, as some drivers have noted, the Supercars are a little bit wider, as we've said all year, than the Super 2 and Super 3 cars. And around a tight little street circuit like this, especially through the centre chicane, it might come back to bite the guys racing tonight.
Yeah, very might. Just turn around and bite some of the guys tonight. There have been a few people already wanting to know, are the track limits going to be increased to allow for that? But the short answer is no, because the Development Series drivers did an extra 7 laps around these circuit corners and they got away with it. So I only think 2 people out of the whole entire field that tackled that race a week ago actually got a drive-through as a result. So it was a dime a dozen situation. And we don't see any need to warrant changing that anytime soon for this round. We're actually going to do things a little bit differently tonight. We are going to go straight into qualifying. It is a slightly longer night, so we're not going to waste any time whatsoever. We have got the field lining up there. The session has literally just gone green. And, well, speaking of green, that's the man who's the first in the queue, Anthony Green, in the Autobarn SES machine. He's going to lead them away out of pit lane. So apologies, we haven't got much time to do much yapping tonight. It is a very tight program, so we are waiting to see how everything pans out tonight, and we do need to keep the night moving along because it is the one night of the year where the development series race a week ago is different to the main game race that races, in this case, it's about to happen tonight.
Yeah, pretty much all our yapping budget for the last 2 rounds I burnt up last round doing was supposed to take 5 minutes, actually took 10 minutes Enduro Cup wrap up, so that's where all the yap time has gone.
Yeah, that's the punishment.
But, yep. But yeah, a bit of a change to the normal proceedings. Normally it's, well, mostly it's been Daniel Cox at the head of the train all round, and all year, more or less, for Supercars, and instead it's Anthony Green. One of the few guys with not so first-hand experience of this track, of recent knowledge, but he was responsible for a car that I believe won a race here about a week or 2 ago. And he's just on his way out, given the turn 8 inside wall a bit of a lick. And we're going to see if our Supercars drivers do a better job than the real Supercars drivers of handling Gen 3 around turn 8, or if we're going to see quite as many plane crashes as they had in real life.
Well, let's have a look. We'll get the first-hand look here as Green starts his flying lap. So down to the tricky center chicane. Actually quite nice over the curves there as well. Kept the left-hand side tyres in bounds at turn 2, because that's where you tend to get stung. If you get the line a little bit wrong, that's where you run over you get all 4 wheels off the deck, go over the curb, and you end up getting a track cut. Surprisingly, and this is almost reminiscent of last round, or last week rather, in the development series, I'm noticing already that Green wasn't fully using all the curbs, especially in turn 4 and turn 5. He used a little bit on the inside of turn 6 to help pivot the car. So I think maybe this is just something that's a little bit different from the real life comparison in Gen 3, is that some of these cars, they just don't want to respond all that well over some of the curbs. You don't want to use them all the time. Maybe there's some parts of the circuit you can get away with, but you aren't necessarily required or getting the required output or the outcome if you use a whole lot of curb on the inside of some of these corners. You can see there just from that shot that some of the curbs are quite raised and quite pronounced, and Green got a little bit too much there at turn 13 and he wagged the dog a little bit. He's gathered it up, going through the final corner now, turn 14, on his way to the start-finish line. Now, times in the practice session were extremely close. There was, I think it was a 2.8 second spread between all 23 drivers, so it's pretty close. If you're Dane Liccardo here on the screen at the moment, actually that's your first flying lap. He was one of the only few drivers that really don't have a representative lap time from in practice, so he's got a little bit of work to do, but I'm sure he'll be up to speed pretty quickly.
He will be, yeah. Dane has, I think by his own admission, he's struggled a little bit this year with the Gen 3 cars, but he is pretty familiar with Adelaide. He is well, famous, maybe not quite the word for it, it's not infamous. It's a bit of an underground thing within ASR, but Dane does hold an unofficial lap record, I think, for Dev Series or for the Gen 2 machinery around Adelaide of a 17 something that every time he mentioned, he's convinced it didn't happen. It's known colloquially as the Tiananmen Square lap, and you can figure out why that's named the way it is. But yeah, he should be able to plug himself in and get back up to speed pretty quickly. And speaking of getting up to speed, no surprises with the top 2 there. Not much of a gap between them either. Wayne Walker heads Will Devonish. Anthony Green, first one to set a lap, still sitting up there in 3rd, and a pretty good gap actually back from him back to Luke Mewing, and then Alex Kiddis up in 5th. And Kiddis, that's pretty good because he was he started off the back in Dev Series with a penalty from Taupo, and struggled a little bit to make his way up through the field. So the fact he's top 5 on pace, or top 4 on pace, he's just gone quicker again.
Well, Noatara's
Noatara's
literally about to join them at the top of the queue if he keeps this going at the moment. He's tracking towards a 20 and he goes P2 by 16 thousandths of a second. So not far off Walker's time. He was actually up at the second sector split on the overall time, but couldn't quite go on with it. So he now can push on for a little bit longer. It is, of course, a mandatory hard tyre round, so everybody's on the hard tyre compound at this point. And there is a top 10 shootout to come as well. So this is just the precursor to what is about to unfold in the single lap dash. Who's going to be the king of the single lap dash around the streets of Adelaide? That's the important thing to come. That's why it is a little bit of a difficult night and why the program is a little bit more condensed. I'd like to thank the ASR drivers for being willing to bring the briefing forward by about 10 minutes so we could actually get out on track at 8 o'clock exactly and get the schedule underway.
Yes, and it's about this point of the qualifying, I'm just thinking about it now, is normally with the top 10 shootout to follow, we start to think about not so much who's at the top. It doesn't really matter to a point. It's really about where the cutoff's going to be. At this point, 10th is Leonard Grossel, who's 1.2 seconds off of Wayne Walker's 120.2, which is going to make that a 121.4, 121.5.
He's just entered the pits as well.
But he's got Darryl Callahan 2/10 behind. He's filling in for Ben Hall tonight. Cam Rutledge is a 10th off of that, and Daniel Cox is 2/10 off of Rutledge. And there's realistically a good little pack of cars that goes back to Dane Licata in 16th that are all within what you'd say a margin of catching Grossel. Grossel in turn is only a 10th off of Stenberg, which, considering Stenberg's lack of practice is a bit of surprise, but also Leonard was actually, we saw him at Taupo in race 3, actually really putting it to Stenberg for the race win. From there's a gap of 3/10 up to the two Lukes in Ewing and Spec. Realistically, I think probably some of the likes of maybe one of the Lukes, or further up to I think Smith or Kiddis are probably the safe bets to make it into the 10. I think probably the back 4 or 5 are potentially at risk with the last couple of laps left to go.
Yeah, if you're Stenberg or you're Grossel, you are definitely not safe. I think probably the 21-1 is probably enough. So Luke Ewing and Luke Speck, I think I'm going to call it now. They're probably safe. Callahan, Egmanis and Rutledge and probably Dostal, I think, is probably one to watch out for. They're the ones that are going to try and look to leap into the top 10 in the last 2 3/4 minutes. Daniel Cox on screen here. He's up on his own personal best, but still 6 and nearly 7/10 away from the ultimate fastest lap at the moment. He loses the mirror on the fence there on the outside of turn number 7. And he's trailing Will Devonish at the moment, who is on a 20.8, should be safe.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty decent lick, but he's caught that. Yeah, I was just seeing Tara in the turn as well.
Yeah, Walker's just lowered the bar, so Walker's now into a 19.9. So first driver we've seen set a 19, so he's more than safe. So I'm pretty comfortable. I think we're pretty comfortable in that fact that he will be through, no problems there. Tara on a 20.5, Devonish on a 20.8, so too Green and so too Kiddis all on 20.8, and Egmanis on a 20.9. So they're the top 6 as it sits at the moment, and they are definitely 100% safe. Ryan Smith, I think, probably safe as well, 21.0, and then Ewing and Speck, although there's just been a late move. Egmanis, I was about to say he was outside, he's jumped in, so that's actually probably pushed Speck down a little bit, as there's a little bit of changing at the top of the tree here. Grossel is now outside the 10. Who's just jumped in? Stenberg has jumped in. Yeah,
jumped up to 3rd.
Yes, Stenberg's just jumped up to 3rd. We're watching Brandon Dostal at the moment. He's someone that I think is probably in a spot where he could probably threaten the top 10. So now Speck and Ewing are the better part of 4/10 clear of the likes of Leonard Grossel, who is still in the garage and will not get another lap. So as far as we're concerned, he's out. It's the likes of Collins, Callaghan, Rutledge, Licata and Dostal are probably the ones to keep their eyes on at the moment. So they're the ones that are 12th through to 16th respectively. Now this one for Dostal is not probably a really good lap. This is the one for him that's got to count though.
It is, yeah. So Callahan was just over the line. He made an improvement by 1 spot, but that won't be enough for him to sit around again. Dostal, I think Dostal just backed out of this
He's
one.
backed
actually,
out,
so
yep.
he's not going to make any moves forward.
Yep, so he is out and officially. Spec going a little bit quicker now. That's a good insurance policy for him, just in case, because he is 10th at the moment. He will be the last man out in the shootout. In fact, Dostal actually just lost another spot. I think I think Callaghan just jumped up into 11th. So I was saying to keep an eye from. He's actually set an identical lap time to Leonard Grossel on the last tour as well. So that's the thing. Oh, Spec into a big drift going into the final, into the Decaturville Terrace hairpin. Now Callaghan is just behind him on track. What's his sector split say? It's not going to be good enough, so he won't make it on these numbers. And I think even Spec knows that probably he's a little bit safer than he was 30 seconds ago. And Callaghan will push to the line, I'd say, here, or is he going to come into the lane? Nope, he's going to push to the line. Rutledge, Cam Rutledge, he jumped up as well, and he goes quicker than Callaghan, and he goes on to 21.3, so he misses out on the top 10 shootout by 2/10. So what a shame there for the CRE Camaro pilot, missing out there by not a lot. Rory Collins. And what was Collins doing in the last couple of seasons? He did personal best sector 1, personal best sector 2. So this is the best lap that he's on. And is he going to make it? No, he lost it in the last sector. Lost it all in the last sector, unfortunately. And throws it away there. So Liccardo, no, he's done his lap. He's actually on an in lap at the moment. And yep, I think maybe he's popped a tyre or something. They're not too sure what's going on in his land, but in other case, we have a top 10, so that's the important piece. So we have Luke Speck followed by Luke Newing. This is the order they'll go out in, by the way. Ryan Smith, Curtis Igmanis, Alex Kiddis, Will Devenish, Anthony Green, Noah Tara, Kurt Stenberg, and Wayne Walker. So it's dominated by Mustangs. There's only just doing the math here, and Brody, I'm happy to be corrected if I'm wrong here, but yep. I think it's 9 against 1. In terms of manufacturer,
yes.
9 against 1.
Yeah, 9 against 1. Yeah. So
where have we seen where have we seen this before?
Both the SS Satellite Mustangs are in the top 10. We've got both the CRE Mustangs, actually, so good work by Termo. Actually, he's been a bit on and off performance. Both of the Wayneswide Motorsports cars are in the top 10 as well. And I don't remember who. No, then there's one each of SES Light and SES. Sorry, is there? No, there is. No, there is. Yeah, one each of SES Light and SES Dark. And then there's one more Mustang that I've missed in that, and then just Stenberg's Camaro.
That's right. So, yeah, like I said, I think we've seen this somewhere before. Now, if memory serves me correctly, the last time we saw this happen, I'm pretty sure it was at New Zealand, I think it was, at Hamilton, where it was a Mustang-dominated situation, and I'm pretty sure Stenberg swept them all.
I think, I'm trying to remember. That sounds about right. Yeah. It's to be fair, I mean, while it is 9 on 1, realistically, if Stenberg is on pace, it's realistically closer to a 2 or 3 on 1. He's really only sort of threats for him usually pace wise are the likes of Devonish, of Walker, of Tara. Of times, Redmond's in there as well. But Redmond, and actually the other thing I was going to go on to is, at this point, it's a good chance to talk about the people who weren't where we thought they'd be. And if I just go back and find the results on the live stuff, if it wants to give me it doesn't want to give me it. What I do remember at the very least was the back end of qualifying, the 21st through to 23rd positions were all 3 Beyond cars. I say all 3 Beyond cars. There's only ever been 2 entered in this season, but the Vortex Racing team Sports Beyond on the bonnet, and they're essentially a Beyond customer team, Beyond affiliated team, Beyond development team. Pick your pick your wording there. But all three of the cars sporting Beyond on them here tonight are at the back. Not necessarily a huge surprise. Maybe for the likes of Bailey Hall and Darren Longman. Not that either of them are slow, but they haven't necessarily been popping up on the top end of the pace regularly. But for Redmond, coming off of what was ultimately his first win at Taupo, thanks to penalties, and you hate for that to be your first win, but he's now got the monkey off his back, so hopefully the next win isn't too far off. To be last in qualifying, not great, but I mean, it could just come down to simply a lack of practice here, and obviously Taupo, one of his home tracks, he was very much of an interest to do well where he could.
Well, we are about to advance to the top 10 shootout. So here we go. Let's have a look at this street circuit. 3.2 kilometres and 14 corners. Just on the southern fringes of the Adelaide CBD. Southeastern fringes, to be absolutely precise. We've been here many, many times before. It's well known for what it has had historically in Formula One. It has been a 25-year home of supercars in real life. It's only been around for a handful of years in ASR, as you see there. 2 races tonight, 32 laps each duration is the race. And, well, it doesn't diminish, as we said, Rhodey, from the challenge that potentially awaits these drivers. There's concrete walls are very close by. There's not a lot of runoff around this circuit.
No, there isn't. And it's going to be down to the likes of some of the early drivers to see where the grip level is and isn't. And we've seen this before in the shootouts, that the pace tends to be anything from half to a second off of the pace they're able to set in qualifying. We have also seen in the last couple of shootouts as well that there seems to be a bit of a rise and a fall in the pace, that ideally, actually, rather than being the last car out in the shootouts, at least based off of the likes of the Euro Cup of Bathurst, you actually wanted to be one of the 4th, 5th or 6th cars out. There was somewhere in the middle there that the pace was just right, and then you get to the other end of the session and it would drop off again. That was probably just due to the timing of day, that being a late Saturday afternoon, or modelling off a late Saturday afternoon qualifying session. So the later you get, the more the sun starts to drop behind the horizon, the more the track starts to cool down. But that won't be a concern for the drivers starting with Luke Speck, and I will quickly touch on Speck's livery because I was having some thoughts on it when I was putting the pack together last night. And what he seems to have done, he's done a good job with it, he seems to have pinched something from most of the other big teams on the grid. So the Falcon across the front, I know that Higginson's done something like that in the past. I know Egmar's done something like that in the past. The Red Bull on the rear wing, he's pinched that from PBF, and the Vodafone on the back, he's pinched that from, I think, Amped Up Racing this year, but also historically, Lewis Weddings teams has run Vodafone on that as well. So, bit of a hodgepodge of sponsors on this final livery, but it's good to see something different for Speck, and he will be the first one out 2 at a time in this shootout.
He certainly will. Round the final corner, as he approaches the start-finish line, he actually tried to square the corner off a little bit, try and straighten the car as early as he could. How's he go getting through the opening chicane? He's got to get this one nice and neat and tidy, and he doesn't do too bad a job. And gets through and onto turn number 4. Move it over to the left-hand side, turn it in, get it nicely stopped out to the side there. Just be careful of that little wall that just juts out. That's the problem that a lot of people have come unstuck with before on the exit of turn number 4. It's you always try and use as much of the road as you can, because you have to carry the momentum, and that little bit of tyre barrier is just waiting there. It's just inviting if you want to come along and play. It will stop you dead in your tracks if you're not careful. So opening times for Speck. So his fastest was a 21.158, and having a look at his time as it sits on the board now, it's actually not too bad. Just waiting to see what it looks like when he gets to the start-finish line here. Now, I'm not getting any sector times popping up on my screen for him, but I'm wondering if he went fractionally early before the green was released from pit lane. So this will be rather interesting, because if this is the case, he's not allowed to do another lap. He's done a 22 and he's actually been stung. So I'm wondering maybe if he actually either A, he got a track cut at the beginning of the lap, or B, he actually ended up in a situation where he left the lane too early. Nonetheless, he is going to be starting 10th.
He will be, yeah. But I suppose if anyone's keeping an eye on the chat and knows which of the two, if it was a cut, then he's not getting that back. If it was a leave too early, potentially avenue to get that back. But I think by that time anyway, he's dropped into, I think it was about 21 and 22. I don't see too many other drivers going slower than him outside of making a mistake. So 10th is still going to be a good spot to start for Specky. And we move on now to the 9th place driver, which is his teammate, Luke Newing.
Yeah, absolutely. Teammates going out line astern here. Newing 23.2 in the first sector. So for him, that's a much quicker time than what his teammate did. Well, his teammate's just rolling around at the moment, I think, just to come back into pit lane. What did Newing do? Sector 1, 23.264, and he's done a 23.288. So he's actually pretty close to being on the money with his lap. Oh, he got the wall there pretty decently on the exit of turn 8. Mirror cap goes flying, and he pull it up for turn 9. Yes, he can. What's the clock say here? 55.9 and a 32.6 in the middle sector. And actually, that's quicker. So he's actually tracking like he's going to be in front of his lap time that he's set to get into the shootout if he keeps this going. This is a very nice lap for Luke Newing. And, well, if you always improve on your time, it gives everybody behind you that comes out in a shootout a little something to think about. The time is a 20.8, and that is 0.3 of a second better than what he did to get in. That is a magnificent lap.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Yeah, off of 1 lap of pace, with the hards that have been a bit tricky, people have reported trying to get the good temperature in them for a 1 lap run. He's done a very good job getting the tyres warmed up. Obviously, there is enough grip in the track, or more importantly, there's just enough grip in the track to work for these drivers. So, yeah, pressure is on for the rest of the drivers in this session, starting with Ryan Smith, to see if they can also improve on the times they used to get in.
Well, I'll tell you what, this driver in the development series in the final 4 rounds was the form driver. He absolutely brained them all. He won all 3 of the 125 kilometre single race events, including this round approximately 1 week ago, this exact event. So, and he's on an absolute tear. Out of the remaining the 6 races that ended the season across 4 rounds, he won 4 of them, and he was on the podium 2 other times. So he absolutely outscored everybody in the back half of the season. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people had some curious things to say about him after practice, and the curious thing that they were saying were, shit, he's quick.
Yeah, no, he is. He's it's a tricky thing this year, being that Supercars and Dev Series are not the same car going into this year with Gen 3 introduced. But Ryan's done a pretty good job adapting to the pair of them. He's been pretty quick at the back end of Dev Series. He's been actually pretty quick in the Social Series as well. He was very unlucky not to take a win outright, but he had the measure of the field for the most of the season. And so far, he's actually got one up just ever so slightly on Newing. It's by less than a 10th, but he's doing what he needs to. Little bit of a scrub of the wall there, but I don't think it'll affect him too much. It was a very energetic start to this lap, very much trying to maximise tyre warming and get the excellent run. The run out of the last corner also pretty good, and he's doing the right thing, trying to get hugged fairly close to the left-hand side.
Oh, lost it all.
But it wasn't enough.
No, lost it all. That was a great final sector from Newing, a sub 25 second sector. So he slots into P2. That's not nothing too shabby. There's one more. The next car is actually up and running, and it's Curtis Egmanis, who's in the Night Industries 3000 Tribute car, which we'll get to and we'll talk about a little bit later on. However, there's an interesting little bit of information that I have that I've just been handed by the trackside camera crew. So we're going to go to a little something here. It's going to be rather embarrassing for Mr. Egmanis, I would say, before he even starts the lap. Just this was on the out lap. Whoops.
Oh dear.
Yeah, whoops. Let's just call it that. That's a whoops. Anyway,
everyone's got different ways of starting their lap, and maybe that's the secret sauce that Tomo needs. I guess we'll find out in the in about 80 seconds, and whether maybe that's the strat, and maybe everyone else in the following along will have to have paid attention to the live stream. A little bit sideways there out of three.
Little bit. That was a fair bit. That was a fair bit sideways coming through turn number 3. So I don't know. Maybe you're onto something here. Maybe the secret sauce is called the sideways sauce. We'll find out. Let's have a look there. It's not far off the top time there, about 10th and a half. So it's actually in the ball game. 23.447 was his sector time there. He's a little bit off his sector 1 time compared to his flying lap that got him into the shootout. He actually did a 20.987 to get in. So that's the mark he's trying to look for here. 20.987 would put him provisionally in P2 at the moment as it sits. We'll get a read on here at the second sector split, and it's actually drifted away. So this is it's gone a bit pear-shaped here in the middle sector.
It has, yeah. The important bit, at least, is he is going to be starting at worst 9th on this pace, unfortunately, with the lack of time for spec. But look, for Termo, it's to get into a top 10 is still a pretty good run of it. We'll see if we're able to pick any of that up in the last sector. I doubt that'll be much to make a difference, but I actually know he's gone further again. So perhaps not quite able to get the temperature in the tyres, which would explain how sideways it was out of 3, that the car just wasn't quite set up well, or something else going awry there for Curtis Egmanis. But he has got a time on the board, and so it means at worst he will be starting 9th. That's
right. Alex Kiddis, the first of the Wayne's World Motorsport machines, crosses the line to start his flying lap. So this will be the 5th runner in the shootout. So we'll be halfway through the field when this is completed. 20.890 was his time to get into the shootout. So far, the only driver that has improved is Luke Newing, but we've seen that before as well, haven't we, Ruddy? We've seen drivers go out and improve their time and then wait for everybody else to roll their dice and then find out that they come up a bit short, and then it does jumble the order. I think Darren Lognan was the last one of those in the development series that we remember seeing that too. Then there was that really weird incident that I was talking about with all the Mustangs that tried to knock Kurt Stenberg off his perch at Hamilton, and several of them ended up with track violations because they couldn't get the back chicane right.
Yeah, it's by no means a thing unique to Darren Lognan of going out in the middle of the session and setting a time good enough to be right at the front, but at this point I think of it as doing a Darren and doing a...
Alex Kiddis into the wall hard at turn 11. That's a big compression lock there, I think, going into turn 11, and good camera angle for that. Just saw how quickly he went straight to the scene of the accident, and that will put him, actually it'll be a slower time than Egmanis, so for Kiddis he's going to be 9th at worst he'll be 9th. At best he could move up a little bit there, but critical mistake going in. He was already down on his time that he needed to get to go in, to move any further forward, but critical mistake going into 11.
Yeah, the way it was going, he worked out to only a 10th off of Egmanis, so he could have picked that up in the last sector and moved himself up to 3rd, but just overdrove, what is that, turn 9, 10, 11. Just overdrove 11, and probably, yeah, you're right, compression locked it, slid it right through. It looked very spectacular. It would have been a lot better if he'd made the corner, but he went straight past the corner, straight into the tyre barrier. That's a bit of damage to repair on that car now.
Will Devonish, a 10th and a half up on the Luke Newing time at the Sector 1 split. So he did a 1 minute 20.8 to get into the shootout. So this would track him into a 20.7 or maybe a 20.6 if he can keep this going. We'll see how the lap unfolds. A little bit of a rub of the wall on the exit of turn 8, but that's not too bad. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's be a little bit of rear quarter panel rubbing. He can't quite get it all the way down to the apex at turn 9, but the clock says he's nearly doubled the advantage that he had going into that part of the course. So it's looking pretty good for the man who is possibly going to be running the number 1 for the last time tonight. And I say possibly because it's still a mathematical possibility that he could take the title, but it will take a miracle tonight for it to happen. He drives out of the last corner to the line, and 20.3 picked up more time. Purple, and another purple sector to move up to provisional position number 1. And I'll tell you what, that is a fair chunk to beat your your time to get into the shootout by, Rhodey, that will be something that will raise some eyebrows in pit lane.
It will be, yeah. Whether he's sitting on something or he just maybe didn't quite get the run he wanted in qualifying. Either way, he's pretty comfortably up there. There's half a second now back to Newing. And I think some drivers can maybe aiming to fall into that gap rather than trying to get it up to it or up above Devonish, given how strong that lap was. The first person to have a crack at it is Anthony Green, who was the first driver out to set a lap in qualifying and actually managed to, I think, basically offer that lap, or maybe it was one lap after that, locked himself into the 10. So really good out of the gate. We'll see how he goes on this, his first flying lap and only flying lap of this shootout.
Yeah, hasn't been able to match Devonish in Sector 1, 23.5 for Green. Devonish is 23.13, so it's a fair old 3.5 tenths there gone begging for the number 10 SES entry. And he gives the turn 8 wall about the same sort of a rub that Devonish did on the way through. And for a minute, that angle looked like the car was actually going to sort of pitch and turn a bit harder than it actually did. But he's almost thrown away like Alex did a corner too early this time. Fistfuls of opposite lock at 10, gets through turn 11 onto the final couple of corners. For Green, this is looking like it might actually drop him. I'm going to say this is going to drop him possibly between Newing and Ryan Smith at this rate, Rhodey. Just looking at the numbers. And
no.
actually, it's worse than that. He actually goes behind Ryan Smith.
Yeah, well, yeah, so
Faded.
the car wasn't looking too bad in the early run, but towards the back end, yeah, the run through 9, that was like put in the dictionary for definition understeer. The thing refused to make the apex whatsoever, and then yeah, it traded the other way through 10 and nearly tried to reverse enter into 11. So something maybe, there's no onboard adjustability for these cars, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was the way that car behaved at the back end of that stint.
Oh yeah. 2 or 3 more runners to go, and I'd say possibly if anyone's going to take the pole position away from Will Devonish, it's going to be one of these 3 for sure. The hometown hero, Noah Turra, is the first one to have a crack at the 20.3 of Will Devonish. His stablemate here, right out to the fence, going into turn number 3, now on to 4. So for Turra, a 20.287 was the quickest time for him, so it's quite substantially quicker than the driver that just went out, Anthony Green. So he made quite a good run there, and he's in the game at the first sector split, just 3/4 of a tenth off of the fastest sector 1 time so far.
Yeah, so that's a really good start to the lap for Noah. I mean, they're all screaming on second through the staircase, but I'd swear he's been doing it the most of any driver so far, so really good running through there. Got it nicely stopped for turn 9, got that just the late apex, which is one of the optimal lines through that corner.
Lost a bit of
nice
time.
Run through here as well, lost a little bit there, but as Newing proved, if you can get this last sector right, you can pick it all back up again.
Well, through the second to last corner, rides the curb, card a little bit of a slide as it slid off the corner. Turra trying to use the inside curb at turn 14 to turn the car. I don't think that worked the way he intended it. He actually lost a little bit more time, but he slots into that big old gap between Devonish and Newing into P2. What's going on there? I was about to say, I think he rode the wall a bit there. Well, broadcast camera was watching.
I think his game chose to lag at a really, thankfully for him, an appropriate time. I wait till after his lap was in. But yeah, I think that was a bit of game lag right at the end there. 2
to go. The man who leads the championship, the Anti-Coal Autosport 47, Kurt Stenberg, who was a late arrival into the server tonight. Can he get the turn right here? To me, Rhodey, it looked like he track sacrificed a little bit there, and he sort of held the brake a bit longer to make sure he held the corner. The car's looking like an absolute pig, though, through turn 4.
Yeah, that was something new for the night. That's the first time I've seen a car do what that car was doing. It's
very lazy.
You say pig. It was like I was trying to corner on hoofs. It just had no grip whatsoever. It was just skating on tile floor, trying to get around the corner like a dog trying to corner on a tiled floor. But look, he's kept it going around the lap is what matters. He's still got time on the board that he's working towards. Decent rub of the wall, but same more or less with what you're seeing for Green and Devonish so far. So pretty consistent in that. got nicely down to the apex, some pretty good run off the corner. So the last sector might play a little bit nicer for him. He has lost 4 tenths to Devonish just here, so that's going to put him into provisional third.
But
and potential to go worse.
He just did a purple middle sector though, so his first sector was poor because of that poor moment at turn 4, but his purple sector in the middle was a 10th better than Devonish, 10th and a little bit to be precise, so he's picking up a bit of time here. Don't discount him for provisional front row, and he actually lost a bit more time in sector 3 there than I thought he would, so he actually went sort of a bit of a yo-yo, up and down and up and down. For him though, importantly, he's going to be, he wanted to start probably in the top 10 because you want to try and keep yourself out of trouble because you've got a championship to think about. So bigger picture for Stenberg, he's in the top 10, he set a time, he's not going to be close to the mid-pack, but it just leaves one runner to contest the fastest lap dash. So he was the only man in the 19s, it was a 19.892 for Wayne Walker, and he's owned the pole positions this year. He's got 6 of them. He can't be beat for the pole award in 2024. Can he make it 7 out of the 11 rounds? It'd be an astonishing achievement if he could.
It would be, yeah. I think he'd be going into the outright record books at that point. I don't think anyone's quite had a hold of the pole positions in ASR Supercars history to the likes of what Walker has done so far this year. Pretty good run through the first sector. I actually did miss that first sector split, but it was not far off of others. He was obviously setting a faster slash, I think, well, it will be a PB, but not too far off of what others have done through there. Nice little kiss the wall at 8, so it's pretty standard for the guys trying to get for the top. That was a bit of a twitchy car under brakes. There's not a bump there like there is in real life this year, but the way the car was behaving, it kind of was like it was trying to rear steer itself into the corner. Pretty good run there as well. I did miss the split, but he wasn't too far off from what I could see, and he's just coming down to the last corner now. This should be a pretty good time.
About 2 tenths away from Devonish's time at the moment. Just green in terms of the 2 sectors. Can he pick it up in the final sector? He can't. No. He goes to 3rd. It's Devonish's pole, the last year's series champion, finally. Believe it or not, he has not had a pole all season until now. That's the first. That's the first one for him for the year. But as we said, the man on screen is the one who walks away in 2024 with the pole award. He had 6 of them, and then the rest of them were shared. There was, if I go down the list here, Luke Rosella had 2 of them, and then the remainder: Kurt Stenberg with 1, Will Devonish with 1, and Noah Turra with 1. So that's how it all ends up. The number 1 starts on the pole for the first race of the night, and of course the results provisionally of race number 1 tonight, or race 24, will form the basis of the grid for the second race of the evening. So there you go, your shootout is officially complete, and it is Will Devonish who has the pole.
It is, and it's interesting. I was thinking in my head just the choice to run. Well, I said the choice to run the 1. I knew all season he was going to be running the 1 tonight, but the choice to run the 1, I thought, oh, this could be a bit prophetic, and start yourself off pole. And it turns out that has worked that way. So maybe he should have run the 1 a little bit more this year. But his plan was he raced to a championship win using the 15. It would only make sense for him to continue to use the 15. It hasn't quite paid off for him this year. But the plan was to run the 1 at Winton, which we did see, and obviously then run the 1 at Adelaide, which would be his last opportunity, one way or another, to run the 1 this year. And as things are going, no guarantees yet, but he's done what he needs to, and not too dissimilar to who was it? Luke Speck last week, doing what he needed to by setting the qualifying time he did, the shootout run that he did to put himself up ahead of Dostal. But similar position there in the points. While the points are mathematically still up for grabs, it's going to take a bit of a miracle for Will Devonish to be able to get ahead of Kurt Stenberg.
Well, you speak about the points. Let's go and have a look at how they stand. So 10 of the 11 rounds are complete. That is the scenario on your picture there. It's 277 points, the margin. There is a maximum of 300 points on the table tonight. So that means that Devonish would need to get both race wins, and Stenberg would need to not finish at least 1 race and probably be right down the order in the other. But realistically, he's hoping for a pair of DNFs for the 47. As I said, a couple of weeks ago. I felt that Stenberg probably had one hand on the title at least. It's probably one hand and three fingers now. Will does need a little bit of a minor miracle here, Rhodey.
He does, yeah. So yeah, more or less, but not obviously just under 300 point gap back. But realistically, that's not quite where the fight is. I think realistically, the bigger fight's going to be for the race for second, and it's one of those things, not unlike the race in Super 3 this year. I didn't actually realize from watching the broadcast back that Kerrison was close enough to potentially drop me for second. I was concerned over the battle for first, even though it was mathematically almost a surefire certainty for Matt Cecil. But similar position here. Will might be focused on the win, but all it's going to take is a bad result for Will, and he's at the risk of getting popped by Noah Tara, who is only another 71 points behind him. And that's very much can be made up in tonight's racing. There's another 200 odd points then back, or 150 odd points back to Wayne Walker. Again, bad night for Noah, and Wayne could get that. Tim Redmond is probably going to be Tim Redmond is probably safe with where he's at, because the next car behind him is 300 points, nearly 300 points, actually just under 300 points back. He's not here tonight. Brenton Foley is at a.
He's at a wedding, I think.
He's at a wedding. He's at a wedding. Yeah, I was trying to remember it was Buck's night or a wedding, but he is at a wedding. And so the next car on track behind Tim is Igmanis, but he's way clear, and he won't be passing him. So Redmond, even if his qualifying time is indicated for his pace tonight, he'll be pretty comfortable and take home fifth in the point standings. To round out the rest of the 10, Igmanis in seventh. Daniel Cox in eighth, mathematically could catch Igmanis. Anthony Green back there in ninth, but I expect to see him moving up based off of the pace so far tonight. And Lockie Lock rounds up the top 10. And Lockie, I'm not actually sure if I've seen him. He is here. He is here. Okay, he's just been quietly running around somewhere. But yeah, there's plenty of race still going on as we go down the points. There's some pretty good gaps as we go down the field. There's some slightly bigger chunks of gaps between some drivers who maybe haven't turned up quite so often. But we're actually interesting one to look at tonight. Callahan is the lead fill-in driver this year. He actually managed to pass Wedding, who was a dedicated reserve driver. He's currently sitting 16th, just behind Luke Newing, a little bit behind Alex Kiddis. But the only person ahead of him tonight, not racing tonight, is Brenton Foley. He's not going to catch Foley. But if he can quietly plug along, he could find himself going a little bit higher, and that's always the sort of the fun stat to look in Dev Series, look how far Super 3 can get themselves, and at one point Cecil was at risk of finishing top 10. In this instance, how far Callahan can get up the field for somebody who hasn't actually had a full-time seat in this series. And based off his Enduro Cup pace, he's getting pretty good at these things.
Yeah, and speculation mounting that himself and Damon McDonald possibly will be in the Supercars field next year, so keep an eye out for that one too. So there's a couple of drivers that are sitting outside the top 10 as well that are looking in. So Leonard Grossel 21st and Darren Lognan 23rd, who are both here tonight. They're looking for some strong results. If they can get them going, then they're going to jump over the likes of Steve Burko and Lewis Wedding, who are the last two cars there inside the top 20 as it sits right now. So a little bit still to play out there. We go over to the teams page, and this one is a little bit more of a fait accompli than anything else, but it's still not. It's still mathematically possible that the top two could change hands, and even more mathematically possible that second and third potentially could change hands as well, depending on the outcome tonight. But realistically, that's probably where we expect everything to stay. Sideways Esport and the CRE Anson crew are going pretty close there, and then Kurt Stenberg all on his own. Anti-Coal Autosports pretty much is right there in sixth place. So that's how the top 10 actually sits in terms of points for the teams. And I guess we haven't sort of paid much attention to how they've all been going this year, but we will have a bit more of a detailed look at that, of course, in the as the night goes on. But Rhodey, the most important thing we have alluded to in the broadcast so far tonight is for Kurt Stenberg. The goal for him is finish race one. That's it. He needs to finish race one. Doesn't matter where he finishes, and that will be enough for to have the championship. And then the second race is whatever you want to do with it.
Absolutely, yeah. So, So the focus for Kurt, as long as he gets home and scores some points in race 1, he's pretty well locked in at that point. He can do what he wants with race 2. And look, it's very much positioned for some of these drivers. You mentioned some of the guys coming into the field. I've heard some rumors about some guys that might be heading out of the field. One of them being involved in the championship battle, but I actually, I suppose by saying that, I've locked it to being one of the 2 drivers. But yeah, for Stenberg, he'll be just looking to have an enjoyable end to the year. Had to sign off a few other things this year and had a bit of a break at the back end of the season as well. He's actually up in Gold Coast for the Gold Coast race and hung around for another week and a bit. I saw him at one point. He was in the passenger seat of one of the drift cars at Movie World for the stunt driver show, or for a ride around that. That was pretty good, doing a bit of tandem drifting with one of the utes. And yeah, just maybe just trying to put a bit of fresh air into the back end of the year for Stenberg, and look, he's in a good spot to do so. He's pretty comfortably at the front. He's still a bit of work to do, but look, if he gets race 1 run and done, he'll be pretty set to do with whatever he wants for race 2.
Yeah, pretty much. It'll just be, the race 2 would be a coronation at that point in time. He's starting there back on the 4th row of the grid. We've got a field of 23 cars that want to take to this one, and Rody's going to take us through.
Alrighty, starting from pole, position number 1 in car number 1 for the last time this year or the last round this year, is Will Devonish, Serie Engineering. Starting alongside him is Noah Tara, running another special livery for the final round for Amped Racing by CRE. Starting from 3rd is Wayne Walker, the lead of the Waynesworth Motorsports cars in the top 10 shootout, with Luke Newing in 4th. Good to see Newing pointing himself up to the pointing end of the order. 5th is Ryan Smith for SES Dark. Pretty good run from Ryan as well, and good to see him up there in the bit of a cross-dress livery, running the RJ Batteries livery on a Mustang. 6th is Anthony Green for SES Light, so that's actually an SES 3rd row. They're split across their 2 teams, with Kurt Stenberg starting out of 7th for Anticol Autosports and Curtis Igmanis out of 8th in the Kit 3000. 9th is Alex Kiddis, the 2nd of the Waynesworth Motorsports Mustangs, with Luke Speck starting out of 10th in the Green-Eyed Monster to Make It Red, was apparently the commission or the brief for this livery. 11th is Cam Rutledge for Sir Anson Motorsport, just missing out in the top 10, with Darryl Callahan alongside him in 12th for Luke Racing. 13th is Leonard Grossel in the throwback to a rolled X Games livery, so hopefully that doesn't repeat again tonight for Grossel out of 13th, with Daniel Cox in 14th for Sir Anson Motorsport. Dostal just been disqualified, so I'm curious to know what he's managed to do to himself there, so I won't be announcing where he's starting, with Rory Collins in 15th and Dane Liccardo starting out of 16th for SES Dark, so that's the other 2 SES, that's the SES row, is row 8. 17th is Jacob Palfrey filling in for Brenton Foley for PBF Race Engineering, with Steve Warwick in 18th, the 3rd of the PBF cars here tonight. 19th is Lockie Lock in his Jack Daniels livery for Amped Up by CRE, with Tim Redmond in 20th. 21st is Darren Longman for the Vortex Racing Team. 22nd is Bailey Hall, also for the Vortex Racing Team, and he would have started, I think, 23rd, but Brandon Dostal not making the start of this race.
No, certainly not, and I'm not 100% sure what happened to cause that in the first place. We might get some information from Nathan Higginson on the side of this, but we are set for race 24 of the championship. 2 races to go. Will Devonish with his customary poor start, and I'll tell you what, that gives the ascendancy here to Noah Tara, who had a wonderful start, and he moves off into turn number 1, 2, 3, and he's already got a nice little margin, with Devonish coming under fire straight away from Walker.
Yeah, brilliant start from Noah Tara from the racing line, which makes sense to have the start. Will, we were just talking to him fairly recently about, he's
Liccardo!
Bad starts,
Liccardo nerfed at turn 4. Safety car potentially straight away here, as there's or is there? No, maybe not. We maybe might have gotten away with one there. So I think Liccardo was maybe in, I'm not sure if he's in the right or the wrong there, but either way, he got a little bit of a tap going into turn number 5, and it's come off worse for wear. I thought for sure we were going to end up with a safety car there. We will have a little bit of a look at this one on the replay. Let's just see what happened here. I think he might have been maybe minding his own business, but he's come in there to turn number 4. What's happened here? Oh, I think it might have been Collins into the back of Rutledge, who's then been snookered into Liccardo.
Yeah, he's ultimately been nuked by his own teammate there, so I imagine that will go down well if they're all sitting in the one channel. But yeah, just Collins into the back of Rutledge, maybe Rutledge braking a bit early or Liccardo braking a bit early, and in the end, yeah, Rutledge was just a meat and sandwich and managed to get away pretty well with that one, whereas Liccardo was spun around. He's going to have heated the tyres up pretty heavily. They are hard tyres, they'll survive the race, that won't be a concern, but trying to get those tyres back to cool back down while trying to cool yourself down whilst trying to catch back up with this train. Bit of work for Liccardo at the start of this one.
That's right, so it's not all bad news because you still keep circulating, you get a safety car or something falls your way, you still keep going. And Liccardo, we know he can drive around here, but he's just not had the laps under his belt so far in the back half of the season. I know that Nathan Higginson in the chat is saying that Dostal got DQ'd, but we want to know why. We want to know what he actually did. All that Dostal said his car rolled over the line. That sort of doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It's possibly then from that basis that he's. I didn't actually catch him in the train. He's potentially missed the start. Started from the pit lane and then actually rolled over the line, because that is an automatic DQ if you cross the line before the game allows you to. So that's a really unfortunate way to do it. And I don't know, maybe just a bit of a downhill roll, or maybe just a bit too close to the line to begin with. Maybe just drop the clutch for a second, but. What that does mean, yeah, Dostal out of this one. He'll be starting from the back in race number 2, and he's on the sidelines for this one. But yeah, a bit unfortunate, but easy mistake for anyone to make.
Yeah, certainly is. Very easy. He's not the first person that's done that before. And I did see that everybody was on the grid, or it looked like everybody was on the grid. Maybe he'd gone back to pit lane late before the formation lap commenced, and then didn't get back out in time. Then had to start from pit lane and crept over. That was rather bizarre. So this is Anthony Green. He's been a little bit of a cork in a champagne bottle at the moment. Ryan Smith can't find a way past it. Stenberg's looking racy. He's moved up 1 spot from where he started. He started 7th. He's now up to 6th. And right on Smith's tail, so to speak, heading into turn number 8. He's actually dropped back just a little bit here as they go through there. It was a fairly decent run on the wall there for Smith. And the Camaro gets a little bit bigger in the rear view mirror, in our case the rear camera, and on they go through turn 1.
Yeah, so I think in the case of, Stenberg, as for the race for him isn't really with these two, but he has to get past these two first. Green and Smith are probably pretty happy running 4th and 5th. Green's probably not that Green was involved last week, but Ryan probably earned as much favour as he can get from the cars around him after everyone doing their best to help him to what mattered for him last week, and so he's just out there for a bit of a casual run. Like we said for Stenberg, like a couple of the drivers on this grid. If Ryan's quicker than Green, he'll work his way past politely, but Stenberg maybe in a bit more of a rush than the 2 in front of him, and he's trying to get a move on now into 4, and Ryan, he's making him earn it, but at the same time he gave him plenty of room, so I think he's be fine if Kurt's going to chop on through on pace, but he is going to make him earn it at the same time.
Yep. And this should consolidate the move here at 6 and 7, and Stenberg goes through. So, yep, fair racing. Look, pretty fair defence from Ryan down at turn 14 as well. He drove it sort of about a car's width off the racing line, gave Stenberg the choice, and he opted to hold it out wide. So that's just a seasoned veteran sort of decision making there, isn't it, Brody? Knowing when to pull the trigger and knowing when to hold back.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's being able to pick your battles, and especially for a race that's 32 laps long, he's got plenty of time to work out something. He doesn't have to be doing it right early. That's that he's spotted a little bit wide of the hairpin. And Smith, he's considered the pass, but at the same time, he's not feeling too much slower than Stenberg. And if Stenberg gives an opportunity, he's going to put himself back up the inside. What does it mean for Stenberg? He just needs to get his head down and play it smart, because he makes a couple of mistakes here and there. He invites a move from Smith.
Couple of cars. Sorry, I wasn't even looking at that. Yep. Actually watching something else there. There's a couple of cars that gave the wall on the exit of turn 11 a fairly decent whack. It was Grossel was tucked in behind Callaghan, who he's now got through on him, and then behind them it was Palfrey who actually got into the wall as well. Bit of a weird situation. That wall doesn't necessarily jump out at you, so you've got to be going a bit quicker than ideal for the corner to go that wide and rub that wall. And remember, there are some weird and wonderful, I guess, quirks that happen here at this particular circuit. We saw it, was it a week ago? Was it 3 cars blew their engines at almost exactly the same point on the circuit within a lap or 2 of each other? So this place does some funny things to different people.
Yeah, that was a concerning one. I was convinced at one point. Oh, actually, I was just watching Palfrey. He saw a little bit of a serve from Redmond on his way up through the field. There was just a light tap. I think it's a bit of overlap that wasn't quite accounted for. But Redmond's up to 14th now, so he's up to 7th part of this race.
Stenberg with the compression lock going down into turn 9. Now, he'd actually been repassed by Smith here, and Ewing was giving him a fairly decent hurry up and just forced a little error there from the 47, but Ewing not there to take advantage of it when it counted.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying a little bit earlier for Stenberg, is just he needs to get his head down and start just pulling away from Smith, because a little mistake here, little mistake there is inviting Smith back in, and Smith feels like he's got the pace to run with Stenberg, feels like he has the pace to perhaps go back and run with, if not out, not even catch Green. But at this point, Green's taken full advantage of the battles happening behind him. He's cleared out a 3-second lead over these guys. He's not necessarily a risk of getting into the battle that Walker and Devonish and Tara are having, but he's just trying to give himself a little bit of comfortable real estate to give him a bit of free air to work with when and if and when any of the faster guys from behind, the likes of Stenberg, perhaps the likes of Ewing, can catch up to him. Yeah, it's Ryan battling as he is quite helpful for Green. Unfortunately for Ryan, it's putting him in a position now where he's back up to 5th again, but he's no safer than he was at the start. He's actually in more risk now with Ewing coming up to the back of this as well.
Yeah, so Green's got about 4 seconds in front, about 2.5 seconds behind, so he's got some fairly decent air gaps at the moment, so he doesn't need to do anything silly. He can just sort of go into his rhythm and decide what he wants to do, because there is pit stops that do need to play out for this one. It is a 100-kilometre race, so you cannot make the distance without stopping as we look for the final time this year at our Pallet Control Solutions race facts. So 3.2 kilometres. The fuel burn is really not the determining factor here.
Jump on you, Nether here, but we've just had a safety car call.
We have just had a safety car, so this is, well, it's timely that we're actually taking a look at this.
And it's Jacob Palfrey down the road backwards at the end of turn 9, and I think with a popped engine.
Yeah, so he's down there right now and all on his own. So this will trigger the ASR safety car. We will get a bit of a look. Now I think he's actually moving. So let's have a look what's happened here. So on his own, that's important. And snatch the rear and down the escape road, turned it around. And I think the engine's actually still running in that car, because I can see
he's fine.
He's fine at the moment. So just out of harm's way, unfortunately. So not sure if that's all of it. That won't be the cause
of the safety car, I don't believe.
No.
Part of it, because Rory Collins is also now out as well.
Yep. So there's takers in pit lane. So that's not a that's not a surprise. So who was in the lane? So Rutledge. Oh, I'll tell you what, Rutledge just got out in front of the safety car. So for him, that's pretty important. Where are the race leaders? What are they going to do here? Yeah, they're all in. So this pit lane's going to be a busy place. So let's just stay with this for a minute. All the race leaders are in fact in the lane. I think if you don't stop, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot here. So Smith in, all top 5 are in. This is going to be, Stenberg. What happened to Stenberg? Did he stay out? Did he make a late decision to stay out?
Looked like he made a late decision. It looked like he was going to pull in, but he waited he basically was out. He's have to cross the curb to make it in. He was coming from that late into the lane. I think he decided way too late that he was going to pit, and then just realised he couldn't come in without attracting a penalty. So he stayed out. Steve stayed out.
Steve Warwick's done the same. Luke Speck's
Liccardo has come out a lap down now, I think, actually.
Yeah, Liccardo's trapped a lap down, unfortunately for him. So too is Bailey Hall. Steve Warwick has gone through, so he has stayed out as well. I want to go back to that thing with Kurt Stenberg, because that was rather strange. Like, normally, if you're in the confines of the pits, you have to be mindful when you come in for a stop like that you don't cross the line and then come back out. So let's get a bit of a look. We're getting a race control penalty for Darryl Callaghan, so that'll be for pit lane speeding. Let's have a look at Stenberg. Did he commit or did he not go in? Oh no, very lucky. So he was, so if he had crossed over, that would have been in proper pit lane entry. If he had been in the lane and come out, he would have been deemed to have been left the circuit boundary. So smart decision. So he's got no choice here. So I'm not sure if this is the right call. We're about to find out, I think. Maybe the math is being crunched and maybe they can get home from here. Maybe that's what they think can happen.
Either that or perhaps banking on a safety car later. But yes, so Stenberg stayed out, which, considering where he pitted, that made sense. Liccardo, I think, has just been given the lucky dog, so he's able to get back through. So that's very lucky for him. And actually, no, sorry, everyone else has pitted. So Stenberg is Stenberg and Warwick are the only two not to pit.
Yeah, so the only cars that were in front of them, they've all just stopped. So Igmanis, then you had Grossel, and I think there was one more who was in the lane, which is Spec. So they've all stopped now. So they've stopped a lap later. I mean, good for them because it means that they've come into the pits and they've, I guess, avoided the carnage and running into people and stuff. But they have lost track position as a result of this. So Igmanis is now coming out behind Daniel Cox, who's in 14th. The likes of Luke Speck are only going to be about 2 positions better off. So Specky's actually 12th, and that means that Grossel is 11th. But they have got some tyres that are in a little bit better shape, only by a lap, but we don't know how long the safety car's going to go on for. Darren Lognan, I think, didn't stop either, Rody, because he's jumped all the way up to 6th with all of this going on. He was right down towards the back end of the field.
Yeah, I'd say so, quite possibly. Yeah, he was down the back. Well, he started down the back with Bailey and with Redmond. So yeah, I'd say there's a good chance he's avoided pitting as well. So yeah, I'd say 3 of them. No, you have to be. Yeah, I think just the 3 of them have avoided pitting. So interesting call. They're definitely not going to be tyre critical or fuel critical at this point in the race. They're perhaps, well, I don't know. There's not going to be too much advantage having pitted. The tyres are going to be 9 laps fresher. You're not going to get too much better of a run on them than the guys who have stayed out. I think for some of the guys who stayed out a lap longer, it was to avoid double stacking with their teammates. But yeah, some of these guys single pitting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think very much Lognan, Stenberg, Warwick, very much hoping for a later safety car at some point. Even safety car just after this safety car. There's a safety car at some point between now and the end of lap 32. Because otherwise they're going to have to make green flag stops and it's going to hurt them big time.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're just keeping an eye on things here. We're just going back to see if we can get a bit of an understanding of what might have triggered the safety car. We thought originally it might have been Palfrey down the escape road at turn number 9. But no, in fact, I think we have our answer. We'll go to the replay here, and as you called, Brody, it is Rory Collins. And just trying to get a bit of an understanding of what he's done here. So through turn number 9, and now on to turn 10. Oh, he got the inside fence. You're joking
so he's got the
me.
inside fence.
Oh, then Liccardo.
And then right into the road of ultimately Liccardo. So I suppose Liccardo, in a sense, has got his has squared the ledger now. Rory Collins went into him at the start of the race, so he's gotten back into Rory Collins at the end of what was obviously Rory Collins' race, but they're very much an incidental move, and I think just be extra damage for Liccardo than what he already had, which I don't think he wanted. But yeah, Collins out, and a really odd one to snag the wall there by yourself, but we did say come into this, the cars are a little wider than the cars these guys were driving, or some of these guys were driving 7 days ago, and what they're used to driving around here, so a little bit of extra acclimatization is probably needed. I get the impression from the train that we've still got another lap left on this safety car, given how close Stenberg is to the, well, it's actually the old Camaro. Probably need to see if we can get an up-to-date Camaro safety car to go with the up-to-date Camaro on the track, but yeah, still probably another lap to go under the safety car.
Yeah, it's done 3 years now, this the ASR safety car, the old body, the old Camaro body style. What do they use now in supercars? It's a Porsche, isn't it? Taycan, I think it is. It's an electric car.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, there's the and we're limited of options, at least within cars in AMS that have the lights on. I know we've tried a few times to see, right, how can we add lights to other cars? But the only options in games, at least from stock, is
the Mini.
Camaro, there's a Mini, and I know from all the guys wanted me to try it in the Aussie Racing Cars on Wednesday night, there is actually a Formula truck with lights.
yes.
But because it's a truck, it doesn't have the lights on top. It has lights down the sides, lit up the way that truck drivers would light a truck up on a safety car. Has the added advantage of a safety car of being the biggest thing on the track, so you have no excuse for missing the safety car right in front of you when it is, especially when it was a racing car. It's probably 2 or 3 times the height of the rest of the field.
Yeah, but all you need is a low bridge, and then all of a sudden the truck hits the bridge, and then we're in a bit of trouble.
We are, yeah. It is a standard truck height, so it fits under most of the bridges. Granted, not too many tracks are designed, at least in Australia, outside of you don't have any tracks with pedestrian bridges that are designed to have trucks underneath them. I think the only place would have been maybe Holland Park back in the day. The only place I can think of with a pedestrian bridge that had truck racing around it, but the safety car is starting to pull a bit of a bigger gap this time around, so I think we're probably not too far from the restart.
Probably not, I'd say. And so it's roughly about 3 laps of safety car. Is that enough for Stenberg to save fuel and be able to make it here? 100-kilometre race, and we've seen drivers do this before. It's the better part of 7 laps shorter than the development series field had for their race approximately 7 days ago. The only difference is obviously 2 of them tonight. But got to think about it, I guess, in some different sort of terms here. I think it's a case of, it's risk mitigation, I think. So Steve's just going to possibly either look for a late safety car here, as you said, or he's going to have to make a green flag stop, or he's calculated the fuel number precisely and he's going to be able to make it from here. So there will be a couple of penalties that probably will be issued, no doubt, and those ones are going to have to be cleared. The only one I'm aware of, Freddie, who has a penalty that needs to be retained is, of course, Daryl Callaghan for pit lane speeding.
Yes, so a couple of penalties have popped up there off of the start, but the start itself was very clean. Stenberg actually, I think people burned a track cut there off of that start, but he's pulled away from Steve Warwick, who's now the cork in the bottle, but Noah Tara already trying to make a move on the 63.
It certainly is. So he'll be on the wrong side here going up to turn 4. Warwick will have the high ground, but this is what Smith and Stenberg exchanged a little bit earlier in the early going here, and a little bit of panel exchange there. It's not too bad, and then Devonish is trying to go down the inside. Warwick gets a little bit out of shape there, gets into Noah Tara a bit late on the brakes. That actually gives Devonish a bit more of an easy passage through turn 7 than he otherwise would have thought. Walker's going to try and come through now as well, as Warwick's trying to hold on.
Oh,
no, backed out of it. Smart.
Was very risky. That was pretty well done. I know what it's like trying to go too wide through 8. So that was pretty well done. I think Walker was expecting Warwick to pull out. Warwick wasn't planning on doing it, and Warwick didn't indicate he was going to do so. In the end, Walker just breathes off the throttle just to let Warwick through. Still a little bit of front to rear contact. Nearly spun the 63. We just about caught it through the run. Although I expect with the pace difference, especially where the tyres are at, I imagine Walker's going to be clear of Warwick before they try that again next lap around.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, and I think from Walker's point of view, he actually made the sensible call to pull back in there and then worry about doing making another pass a bit later on.
Well, I've just seen around at the last corner as well was Leonard Grosso, so I imagine he got some assistance somewhere along the line.
Yeah, so he's just recovering to the track there now as it all sits. And he's having to catch up there. There's just the confirmation that race control are just reissuing the penalty for Daryl Callaghan. Actually, in fact, I think he's actually just served it. So
yeah, he's just
actually, so
served that.
So that's fine. So he's actually we didn't see him in the background there. So his penalty will actually be cleared, and he has indeed served that. So actually that's a pretty good observation. Normally, the live steward does jump in the chat, and they do have to pull those things out and manually, and then come back to it and have another go at it. Walker finally passed Warwick this time around. I did see that. That was coming at turn 8. It was almost touching going through turn 8 between the two of them.
I'll be honest, in the back of my brain, I was still remembering that Stenberg drove the 63 with this livery at Bathurst. Was a fill-in driver, and in the back of my head was like, it is Walker and Stenberg. I'm like, no, this is Warwick, not Stenberg. Still a pretty willing battle, all things considered, though, when Steve Warwick's now got Anthony Green and Ryan Smith a company. They're actually doing a pretty good job as well, and actually Stenberg talking about Stenberg, where is he in this trainer? He is, sorry, he has pulled to the front. Sorry, he has pulled to the front. I forgot about that.
Yep, and this is now the tyre delta that's coming into play here. So despite the fact that Stenberg's got less fuel on board, he's got 14 laps older tyres compared to, or 14 lap old tyres compared to these guys behind who have got 5, and probably 3 of those laps have been done behind the safety car. So it'll only be a matter of time here, I think, before Tara's propped down the inside, probably at turn 9.
Yeah, turn 9 with the smart. It'll really be down to how good of a run, or relatively speaking, how better of a run these new tyre runners can get through 8. It's looking pretty good for Tara, but he's probably in a position where he's a bit too close to the back of Stenberg. Stenberg has a bit too much control over what Tara's doing. Whereas where Devonish is at, he's a little further back. He can perhaps get a better run through 8 and perhaps get through the pair of them and run down the line.
Pretty defensive hold there from Stenberg as well, moved it to the right in the break, or just before the braking zone, so Taro was forced to try and go up the inside, but then he actually pulled out of the move. So again, biding the time here, but the problem for Tara is he probably needs to strike while he's got some good meat under those hard tyres, because the longer it goes on, the harder it's going to be to pass, and ever more, the longer it takes, Walker's going to get very close to the back of these 3, and then it's going to become a 4-car fight, and then the stakes start to go up. Noah Tara, a little bit of a tank slapper, hits the wall going through turn number 1. That and 2, 3, that gives Devonish a free pass through. So that's a mistake from the 26, pushing hard. I think he was looking, or maybe he had a bit of a thought in his mind that turn 4 might have been the opportunity that he could take to pass Stenberg, but he got too greedy at the chicane and got out of shape.
Absolutely, yeah, it was a good catch for the 26 actually to keep that from getting much worse. We've seen plenty of big accidents happen there in real life in the past. What it has done though is it's put Devonish up into second with minimal effort from himself, and actually put Noah back to the point where he could go back to this. He's going to bring Walker with him to do so, or Devonish, pretty optimistic look up the inside. I don't think that was going to quite play ball. He very much needed Stenberg to gift him that position, and even if this isn't the direct fight for the championship, Stenberg isn't going to make it easy for him. He's going to make him fight all the way.
No. Well, that was a very late angle from the racing line to the corner to try and, seize the gap and maybe take the element of surprise. But it didn't work on that particular occasion. Stenberg was awake to what was going on, but he also had the high ground too. There's actually some cars, the 2 SES satellite racing cars in the pit lane, line astern. I was a bit confused by what's going on there, Rhodey.
Yeah, I don't know, perhaps forgot something in the stop, or
possibly.
Pretty sure they did both stop, so either that or there is some extremely big brain strategy that we're missing that they're sitting on. Spec has been supplying setups to most of the Dev Series grid this year, so outside of the Pixel guys who aren't here tonight, if anyone's going to pull a bit of a sneaky, I wouldn't be surprised if it was those 2, but yeah, odd decision.
Very odd decision.
I'm inclined to believe they forgot something in their first stop, but for the both of them to have got it, it's... I don't know. I guess we'll see. We might have a chance to talk to them after the racing's done. Well,
there's about 5 battles going on at the moment. We're struggling to keep track of all of them. There's the lead group of 4 cars. That's one battle. There's this group that's been led by Darren Lognan, who did not stop under the safety car period. And Kid is now up the inside. Cox with an ambitious move from a long way back at turn number 9. He gets through on Igmanis, but he's about to cough up a spot here to Green. He's going to need to leave him a little bit of room, and Green just has to tuck back in for a few seconds here at turn number 11. And then the next group of cars is coming like a train, with you got Locke ahead of Tim Redmond there, and they're about to get a whole host, a fistful of all the bumpers and nudging that's going on here at turn 14. And Green, I think, redressing here because he got into the back of Cox and pushed him wide. You don't want to let Igmanis through, though.
No, and this is the thing, that was the thing, in turn 9, Lognan, the doors opened for Kiddis, or by Kiddis, and everyone was tripping over themselves trying to make something of it as well. And yeah, Green ultimately coming through. Green actually missed all that because Green was running with Ryan Smith, but he's clearly dropped back from
Smith has gone, so he's up to 5th place. So he's actually just keeping an eye on my times at the moment. He is lapping faster than the leaders, so he's trying to catch up to the leading group of 4 cars.
Well, yeah. I mean, if I'm going to trust anyone to put the skates on and to try and pull margins around here, it's going to be the guy that had a what was it, like a 10-15 second lead, I think, at one point in Dev Series. Green's bench having a look at Cox again this lap at turn 9, and actually Igmanis, I thought, trying to sweep around the outside. But some different lines going here. But what this has meant with this battling is that second train you talked about was the third train you talked about with Lockie Lock, with Tim Redmond, with Dane Liccardo. That's caught this train as well. So now it's a train headed by Daniel Cox.
But Warwick off the road there as well at turn 6. So that puts actually it's a lap car. That's Luke Newing right behind him. So Warwick didn't lose a hell of a lot of ground there, but he did lose just some time to Kiddis, who's actually cleared away from that group. So he's put the hammer down now that he's got past Darren Lognan, and he's moving away from the field. Lognan himself has moved away. Then you've got Green. Oh look, this is a heavyweight slugfest going on here. Igmanis in 10th, Lock up to 11. There's been a whole host of positions change here in the last couple of seconds or so, and I don't know which way to turn, Rhodey.
Yeah, well, Liccardo trying to make something of tonight. Redmond obviously trying to get back into the swing of things. Rutledge, I think, is trying to get back up a few spots.
Walker, sorry, Rhodey, it's all over the place here. Walker was trying to get up the inside of Tara, and he's found the fence at turn number 9. That lets Ryan Smith through into 4th place, so that's a mistake from the 217 Wayne's World Motorsport Mustang. And we'll grab a replay of this one and have a look, because he had a run through turn 8, and he couldn't pull it up on the stops at turn number 9. So here we go, got the run through here. Early decision, Noah saw him coming. Little bit of locking, very, very locking, and just ended up running a bit too deep there and actually got the fence. So minor touch of the fence, but that's enough to drop him out of that lead group.
I think potentially, and it's hard to tell with the with what's available on the replay, I think potentially Walker had picked at some point in that braking zone that he wasn't going to make the corner and actually breathed off the pedal to ensure that he would clear and fly through that gap ahead of Noah Tara rather than forcing the pair of them to both go wide. So if that was the case, pretty smart driving from Walker as well. It's a hard one to judge in that situation, but if you can do it just right, you can actually have a minimal impact on the cars around you and potentially get a better run off the out of the incident yourself as well. So what that has done is, as you said, has put him back behind Ryan Smith, who's just, it doesn't matter to him, he's going to keep skating. He's now within 2 seconds of Noah Tara and closing that down pretty rapidly, actually, because of this 3-car slugfest on him. So this will be a 4-car train, just with Ryan Smith in the place of Wayne Walker, probably within the next lap or two.
I'll tell you what, I think Stenberg's driving to a number here, 22.2, 22.1 for Devonish, 22.3 for Tara, 21.5 for Smith last time around. That just goes, he's taking a second out of them a lap at best. So it's going to be, in about 2 laps time, he's going to be right on the rear bar of the 26 of Noah Tara. 22 flat for Stenberg that time around, 22 flat for Devonish, 21.8 for Tara, 21.3 for Ryan Smith.
Yeah, so yeah, it's at this point the gap is, and it's all just visual for him. He can see the cars he's chasing. He can see probably the reason why he's closing as quickly as he is. You're right, Stenberg, I think probably at this point, like he's only got 12 laps left of this race. He can hope for a safety car all he wants, but at this point I don't think he can afford to do, well, what he has to do is he has to budget for no safety car. You're right, driving to a number, he's driving exactly where he needs to. Devonish probably could pass him a little bit easy, probably, at least on paper, could pass him, but it's all down to Stenberg driving exactly how he needs to make sure that doesn't happen. He's probably sort of backing it up where he can to make sure that Devonish doesn't get a fully assertive run. He's actually backing up to the point where Tara's looking at having a pass on Devonish as well. He's just done that. So what he's actually doing is allowing ultimately the cars behind him, he's forcing the cars behind him to think small picture. He's forcing him to think about second and third, rather than thinking about first place. If they work together, the cars behind him, they could probably very easily muscle Stenberg into a position where he gives up at least one spot. But because they sort of get stuck fighting amongst themselves, and Ryan Smith is now actively joining this little battle, it's very likely that they're going to assist Stenberg in getting this win.
No, that's exactly right. And I'm looking at it from a Noah Tara perspective here as well, and Will Devonish, and thinking between the two of them, they've probably made a decision that probably Noah's probably the slightly stronger of the 2 cars that are in this group at the moment. that can maybe challenge Stenberg for the win. It just happened that Noah did make that little bit of a mistake a little while ago, and he'll be looking at the back of the 47. Oh, thought about down the inside at turn 7. That was very risky when you were looking from that angle there. And now on to turn number 8 we go. Now remember, for a long time in ASR, there was the old gentleman's rule here at turn number 8, being at 150 metres out and having to give way here. Here goes Turra. He's got purchase on the inside here. He's got strength under braking, and he gets it done. I'll tell you what, Stenberg got a shove there, I think, from Devonish. He's trying to come through, and he wasn't quite close enough. So that allows the 26 back through to the lead. Smith is in this battle now as well. So this is a 4-car fight, but I suspect it'll become 3 cars pretty quickly, because I think once Turra is through, he's definitely got some pace here. Oh, Devonish has a little bit of a half-hearted look at the final corner, but Stenberg was a little bit too far in front. There wasn't enough time for Devonish to sneak through.
Yeah, so I think the contact at 9 was a result of Stenberg trying to cut back under Turra, but Turra was there and he couldn't do anything about it. Devonish saw an open door and just tried to stick half a foot in, but it wasn't enough. And he's been doing that sort of a little bit here and there. Oh, actually found out the car spun. Spun Stenberg, and I don't think that was a fair move from Devonish.
I don't think it was either, and lucky there was no extra contact between Stenberg and Walker, who came round the corner. Stenberg was on the right line for the corner. Devonish not quite far up enough. I think the stewards will take a little bit of a dim view of that if it does end up in the stewards' books. But that will be that effectively is an unredressed contact situation for Will Devonish, and now himself is going to be coming under threat here from Ryan Smith, I'd say, in the next minute or two. Smith is down right there. Devonish is quite wide actually, and I think that's more a mistake than anything else. But well, if you will, Devonish, that yes, too far, not far up enough to command position for the corner. And I think at this point, even before the night, he knew it was a tall order with the championship on the line. But I think from his point of view now, he knows it's definitely not going to happen tonight.
Well, with a default 30-second penalty for unredressed contact, and he knows what the rulings are for that. If that's where it's adjudged, it's going to put him back behind Stenberg, and arguably worse off than he would be if he'd pulled aside and dropped those 7 seconds to redress that. It's a 270-point gap. It's going to go worse than that. It's probably going to be. It probably will work out to be maybe a 300-point race, 300-point gap after the end of this race, depending on where the penalty would drop him. So, or if the penalty came, where that penalty would drop him. So, that half-hearted move, as from the broadcast, might be what decides this championship.
Yeah, I think so too. Back to this battle that's sort of unfolding with for 8th place on backs. Anthony Green, as you said, he's dropped a couple of spots since he started the pit late in the pit stop sequence when the safety car came out. So he's down in 8th as opposed to when he was running up inside the top 5 a little bit earlier. He's got this, well, it's a bit of a unique livery, I think. Let's call it, Rody. I know we've spoken across the year about minimal efforts for liveries, particularly in development series. And this is a very minimalistic livery, but if you haven't seen it, yes, the original Knight Rider was of course a Trans Am, and in the remake, which was released in the I think it was about 10 years ago now, I've still got, there was only one season released of it. It was a Ford Mustang GT 500.
Yeah, so it was either, I think it was either the late 2000s or early 2010s. It was right in that period of film and TV where they were redoing old classics with new cars. I think to the tail end job, I think was it Born in 60 Seconds or something? They've got a remake as well. Off the heels of that, they brought Knight Rider back. The interesting bit I will point out is Igmas has just bunted, I think it was one of Anthony Green's mirror caps. Is unfortunately with the rear of the car, he's unable to put Shelby on the rear the way he wants to because of the notch for the rain light and the notch for the camera. So instead it says SHLB. Yeah, yes, I noticed. When I spotted it, it's just unfortunate with the placement. He could have put it a bit lower, but then there would have been nearly as much room for the Cobra badge. But minimal livery, but it stands out. It stands out from the lack of livery to it. There is a bit more detail than you can make out. There is actually like either a slightly dark, or sorry, a slightly white or a slightly glossier, very dark grey or black stripe that runs across the top of the car. It's only really visible from certain angles with the way the rest of the car shines.
I want to show you something too, Roddy. We're just going to pitch the camera down a little bit here, right? Just have a look at what he's actually got.
Oh, the footwell.
Yeah, we have the advertising boards, so as all the drivers have done with the way it normally happens in real life in supercars. Instead of the sponsors, it's that's I guess maybe my kid's computer.
Yes.
He's gone the whole hog, and I must say, look, full credit to him. Well done. Something different, something a little bit new and interesting. But you know what? It's there's A for effort, and I guess in Termo's case, I give him A for creative thinking. Not probably not what I would have picked to have been going around the streets of Adelaide. This is also a man, mind you, who designed a livery that looked like a police car from one of the rounds earlier this year.
Yes, he has done
Gold
that.
Coast, I think it was.
It was for Gold Coast, yeah. Just looking into the field, and I need to go and check my own copy of the, and we got interrupted before, so we'll have to pick them up for race 2 of the Pallet Control Solutions race facts, but seeing a lot of cars with the wrench up, which is interesting because most of these cars are pitted already.
Yeah, we did have the Pallet Control Solutions race facts up a little bit earlier, just literally as the safety car was called, and we were talking about the fact that, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, where the stops and everything were going to happen. What I'm interested in at the moment here is Walker, because he's now down the inside of Ryan Smith at turn 5 and gets that done. That was probably coming for about a lap. Walker definitely with a lot more pace and gets back to where he started this race and now can set sail for the number 1 of Will Devonish.
Yeah, Ryan has some good pace early in the stint, but I imagine perhaps just burned through the good portion of the life with these tyres. Although he's holding a little bit in reserve. Look, he's still in a good spot where he's sitting. He is only one spot up from where he qualified, but the important bit is you aim to improve from wherever you qualify, no matter where you qualify, unless you qualify on pole, in which case, good luck with improving on that. But yeah, it's been a good run. It's been I wouldn't say quiet run. But he's done what he needed to. He's had some good pace where he's needed it. He's still got a little bit of race left to go, a little bit of race left to play out. But even just sitting 4th would be a pretty good finish for the number 60.
Yep, I'd agree with you on that one. Meanwhile, Alex Kiddis has been closing in by a couple of tenths a lap on the back of Kurt Stenberg, who I don't think is pushing the envelope like he was. He's not controlling this race. He's now just in a case of, you know what, I've got it in my pocket, the championship's there, I've just got to bring it home, not do anything silly. So Kiddis has been gaining ground over the last couple of laps. That was actually Stenberg's last lap. That was actually one of the slower laps we've seen, 22.5 to Kiddis' 21.9. So I don't know if he'll just let the number 218 Mustang go here. I'm thinking probably the smart decision is just to let it go and not worry about anything anymore and just make sure you can bring the car home. You don't non-finish. Yes, there might be a penalty still to come from Devonish to be sorted out later, which is obviously always the case after the night is over and everybody's had a chance to have their say. Those are, of course, the ASR rules. But I think it's now pretty much Stenberg knows that there's only a handful of laps to go. There isn't a point risking it, and maybe it might be best if you get to move up the inside to sidestep the argument. But as I say that, we know he's a fighter. We know he wants every position he can get, and he was far enough alongside him ahead of the braking zone there to not worry about the number 218 slipping through.
Yeah, Stenberg is still limited by his strategy. I think he's still running to a number. Unfortunately, he's just not in a position to be able to control the race. But I think rather than trying to make something of trying to pull away from Kiddis, which he knows is going to hurt his own strategy, he's pretty confident that the only reason he ended up where he ended up was because of a mistake of another driver. Actually, right. Well, speaking of, Smith is out.
He is.
I just watched him. He lagged back and he's sitting now at the exit of turn 2 without a front left tyre.
Yeah, so he's now officially in the garage. We'll go and pick a replay up of that in just a few minutes' time. That's going to elevate everybody else. This battle we're watching here, Steve Warwick, he's actually hung on surprisingly well, all things considered, and running in 6th place is a mighty effort from where he started. So great strategy call by whoever's pulling the strings for that one. And Igmanis has not been able to find a way past. Yeah, so I'm looking at you here, Roddy, as well, because I'm looking at what's happened to Ryan Smith. I think he's had some sort of we're not going to bring it up on the replay, but I think he's had some sort of game issue or disconnect, and then, yeah, he came straight back onto the circuit and lost a tyre, so that's completely unfortunate.
It was lag to the strength of, and I'm reaching into people's memory banks here, of what Lockie Burke had a few years ago at Gold Coast, where he lagged so bad the game put him back in the pits for 10 seconds and then threw him back on the track at turn 1 and scattered the pigeons. As a result, I've just seen actually Ricardo in the back.
There's a bit more. I was about to say a bit going on down here at the last couple of corners. I don't know what was going on there. That's actually Ricardo who's in 10th, and there's a bunch of others with him as well. And I think there might have actually been something getting served here, so we will bring this one up. We have got plenty of time to have a look at things here. So this is what happens. It's down at turn number 8. Now I didn't see whether he got a little love tap here. He's just completely and utterly driven through the rear corner of Darren Longman there. And, well, they say Avengers of Dish Best Served Colt. I don't think he had anything aggrieved by there when he was going up against Longman.
It looked like, at least from Dane's point of view, there might have been a little bit of movement in the braking zone, and Logan was perhaps trying to go up the inside and just end up doing an overlap. But it wasn't even so much of a drove through. He just he didn't accelerate, he didn't brake at any point, but he didn't even accelerate into Logan once the contact started. He just rolled straight through, off throttle. He got down to like 80, just hoping essentially that the cars would disconnect without having to jam on the brake pedal. And momentum just carried him around, just carried Logan around, and spun Logan just put into the back of this train. It's obviously, Dane's got he's got a bit of clear air of the cars behind him, which I did hear a bit of contact somewhere, so maybe it was Rutledge snagging a wall somewhere. Argument there should be a redress in there somewhere, but I don't see one happening.
No, I don't see one either. Finally, Igmanis has cleared Steve Warwick, so it's taken him a lot longer than he otherwise would have thought. He's got 3 more laps to go now, and then the end till the end of the race, so that'll be 6th for him. Now remember too, there's still one more race to come tonight. Where you finish this race is exactly where you start the next one. There's another tyre. Is that the Smith tyre still on the middle of the track that I just saw there going through turn number 1? I think it's finally been cleared. There's a yellow flag actually out. What's down here in sector 1? I'm just looking to see who's actually tripped the yellow flag. It's cleared now, so I'm not sure what that was all about.
Yeah, I was just going to have a look, and something we missed in all the action we were catching is that Kiddis did actually get through on Sandberg. I went back to try and find out if there's an exciting moment to happen there, but too far back from the replay to catch it happening. But he has gotten through, and to really affirm how much of a number Stenberg's running to, he's already cleared out by a couple of seconds. Stenberg's next challenge is Igmanis, who, thankfully, with the presence of Steve Warwick, I don't think he's only got 2 laps to catch him, and I don't think that's going to happen. No,
Stenberg's currently down at turn 14 right here, and Igmanis is at turn 11. So with 2 laps to go, there would have to be land speed records broken in order for him to catch up to the back of the 47.
Absolutely. So, yeah, he's probably pretty comfortably home in 5th as things stand. I'll say, touch wood, we have seen results that were pretty well locked in. I was looking back at the Long Beach broadcast during the week, and Rosella was pretty well set for a win until he found the tyre barrier on the last lap at the 3rd or 4th last turn, and it completely ruined that race. But yeah, as things sit right now, short of any interference, and we're pretty comfortably home in 5th. It's not going to set him clear in the points, but again, it just puts that little bit of more work needed for Will, or a little bit more luck needed for Will in this last race to come up. The interesting thing actually is, as things play out with how much he's dropped, is a similar thing to what we saw in real life actually. Standard 30-second penalty if Will were to get one. He's currently 28 seconds ahead of Stenberg.
Yeah. Well,
so there is a genuine possibility that if he were to get one, it wouldn't actually. Well, not that the aim of penalty is to reverse positions, but it wouldn't even do that potentially as things shake out. So whether he's got a little bit left in the tank that you can pull out now, Stenberg, with just over a lap to go. Yeah, he's going to have to find something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're on the last tour of the first race of the evening. There'll only be a short turnaround between now and the end of and the start of race number 2. But, well, what can you say? It's been an interesting little race, I think, with everything that's happened so far. And for Noah Turra, if he manages to get this, believe it or not, it'll chalk up his 4th win of the season. So not a bad number to have. And importantly for him, on home soil. So you just got to get to the end of Bailey Hall, just sideways coming through a couple of corners there. One more corner for the 26, and through safely he goes. A little bit of a drift there, and he's going to salute. He'll take home the first 150 points of the night. So your podium as it sits is Turra, Devonish and Wayne Walker. Good job for Alex Kiddis to get home in 4th place. It's going to sit right now. This will probably be his best result of the season. Very nicely driven. However, as you said there, Rhodey, Stenberg only 37 seconds actually behind Will Devonish. The penalty is probably not going to matter. But for Stenberg, 5th place is enough. He will go into the final race with a 250-point margin as it sits right now based on the current finishing positions, and that will be enough for the 2024 Series title.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Green home in 7th, and I think that was actually.
Oh, yeah, there's something that's just happened there at the checkered flag there. So Green in 7th. Redmond was, we might go back and catch a replay. There was Green in 7th, Lock 8th, Warwick 9th, and Liccardo home in 10th. So what happened here? So, it's a little bit of maybe some accidental contact there for Green. And what happened here after flag? I'm wondering, did Green slow down abruptly?
I think he just lifted earlier than Redmond was expecting.
Yep, I think that one will be ruled to be I guess you call it probably a racing incident, I would say there, but probably I would say going to be more a warning. People have been known, we've had a few people in the past that have come along and said, I slowed down after the line, but it's like you can't do that with a car directly behind you. I actually have seen that happen in Formula V as well, where drivers just purely and simply, they get to the end of the race and they get to the line, they ease off the throttle and they completely forget that there's someone behind them. You know, usually you keep going at full pelt for a couple of 100 metres after the flag until you actually know that you are clear. So that one will be an interesting debrief. So there we go. Race number 1 for the evening is in the books. Cars all coming back to pit lane now. And series champion there in front of Lockie Lock is the champion in waiting once again. So there'll be a 3rd title officially declared after the end of the next race for Kurt Stemmer.
Yeah, and look, not the ideal race, but as is all this I ever asked of people in positions that he's in, is he did about as good as he could with the hand he was dealt. As I said earlier, he won't have pulled away in the points, but he's just eked that out to another race where, a lot more points are needed for. Well, actually, sorry, I say a lot more points. Only 150 points on offer. So yeah, he has actually locked it in.
He's locked it in. It's 100% confirmed. He's locked it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it at the moment. Even if a penalty for Devonish comes along and materialises after the fact, it will definitely be enough for him to secure that title. There's no coming back from this. There would have to be an absolute disaster, a litany of time penalties or points deductions in the next race for anything serious to change hands. Well, Rhodey, I guess it takes it means that the final race of the evening, which is not too far away from getting underway now, is I guess it's a coronation race for Kurt Stenberg. It's not going to diminish anything. He's still going to want to go out there and he's still going to want to win it. So that part is pretty much done, a given, I guess. He's a competitor. He'll continue to compete like he always does. We'll run through some of the numbers on the other side of this last race of the evening once we've had a chance to digest a couple of things. But I guess looking at that one there, if I look at how things have happened over the course of time, he's had the 7 wins this year, but most of the damage, I think, was sort of done in the early going of the season. Like, Kurt's only sort of had 1 race win since round 7, and that was the last round at Topor in race 23. So he'd actually gone, better part of 8 races in a row across, 3 or 4 rounds without a victory. Most of he had a good start to the season, and up until Sydney, he'd never been lower than 4th, and then it was a bit of a slugfest. Sort of Gold Coast didn't go his way because he ended up in a collision there. Mixed results at Long Beach, mixed results at Topor, and sort of had to just keep dragging the car to the line.
Yeah, so it's not been a championship now to sort of walk his way into, but there's definitely been a fight on for it at points, but yeah, he's done what he needed to. He's picked up the points. He hasn't necessarily had a dominant year the way that I think even Stenberg had with his last championship. He was from memory, he was pretty comfortably set in there, and it was a real. I think that was it might have been I think that might have been the last year or perhaps the first year of Will unlocking that last sort of 10th or 2 that you needed to fight at the level that Stenberg at the time Rosella was doing, and so that's part of what opened that up. I think even that year, I think Rosella's appearance was a bit spotty, and it was only otherwise Devonish as a full-time competitor that could have taken it to him and just didn't quite have it for him. So it's been a bit more of a fight to it this year, having Devonish on pace, having Rosella there at least to throw a cut amongst the pigeons when he was able to race. Obviously having Walker up there, and even though he's a teammate to Devonish, Noatara is still there fighting for positions on merit, and he has a right to be there. And by all means, he was in a position where potentially, not unlike I suppose the dynamics we saw from McLaren at the last couple of rounds in F1. 2 drivers very much sort of fighting for their own things, kind of trying to work together as a team, but also be nice for the Australian to get his first and second wins, and kind of poo-poo to the McLaren driver who's trying to win a championship from 7 or 8 rounds deep.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, one thing that we've been really grateful for this year is the ongoing support of a number of people that have contributed to ASR over the course of the season. There's all sorts of people to thank. This is, of course, the last round. We've got sponsors that we'll talk about a bit later on. There's plenty of people behind the scenes that do all sorts of wonderful work. Nathan Higginson this year for all the work he's done over the better part of the last 12 months, and including this year, another 7 or 8 months this year on all of the Generation 3 Mustang models. In the case of some of the broadcast graphics and bits and things, there's been a couple of things provided by Lachlan Locke. There's also been all of the driver stand, the driver pictures that we bring you when we do the interviews has all been provided by Daniel Cox. So actually something that happened, I guess, is what we call a little bit of karma. Karma does wonderful things, and it also, it can be a bitch, but it can also come back to you in nice, wonderful ways. And for Coxie, that happened for him this week because he got his hands on a rather nice model, courtesy of the guys at Kart FX. They actually got a Camaro supercar and transposed his ASR Supercars livery onto one of these die-cast models. So that's actually arrived today, and we're just getting a couple of pictures of it here. It's actually got the white sidewall compound tyre, and from what I understood, this took quite a fair bit of effort to actually put together, done by Ethan Warren. I believe as well. So you can see just some of the quality of how these sort of things put together, right down to the headlight little detail. You can see there all the stickers and how they all have to be put together. Look, even all the logos on the side of the car right there on the window, bit of vanishing part there. The detail is astonishing. Coxie's extremely happy, and I couldn't be happier for him, and am proud to sort of just show this off as a little bit of a something, because I mean, for all the work he's done this year to support ASR and do bits and pieces for ASR, this is what he's received in the last couple of days, and even with the certificate of authenticity there as well. So really, really good to see. Nice job for them, and a great job by the team down there at Kart FX.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a lot of work that goes into those custom models. A lot of work generally that goes into producing a model car, but especially for the custom jobs, they're obviously not done by a manufacturer who's put, basically made it their livelihood to set up the results the way they have. I think we're just missing a couple of guys out of the server, but yeah, there's some really good work done in producing sort of the limited run models. I know there's Code 3 does a lot of stuff. CardFX have done some stuff as well. A couple of guys around Australia who do a really good job with they just do old supercars. They'll do other race cars. I know of guys that I think have had touring car masters cars done. I think a couple of guys have had V8 Utes done. Yeah, a couple of the guys, and there's some probably dedication into it. It's I'd argue it's even probably higher for some guys than the work that goes into just doing a model kit, because at least stickers and there's a reference material provided. You're kind of really kind of going. There's reference material provided for doing the work of like custom cars like this, but you're still kind of
I think
trying to scale everything to the car.
I was about to say you cut off a little bit partway through there, Rhodey, as you were talking there, but that's okay. We won't worry about that too much. We are getting ready for the final race of the season, race 25 of the championship. It's been an interesting one, I guess, this year, so to speak. We are going to start this last one with 21 cars. Ryan Smith not coming back for this one. Bailey Hall neither. So 21 will start. Hopefully Brandon Dostal has made the grid this time. Looks like he is on the grid as it sits right now. Just waiting on Wayne Walker. There he is, last one there. And we will wait to get this one underway. Stenberg starting one row further forward than he did last round. Last race. He's actually 2 positions further up. So let's have a look at how they start the last race of the year. The amped up racing by CRE Mustang. Noah Turra, he's going to start on pole for this one with the win in the previous race. Alongside him, Will Devonish, the outgoing champion from last year, running the number 1 for the last time. Wayne Walker starting 3rd. He's going to have his teammate alongside him, Alex Kiddis. So I think it's the first time all year the teammates have started side by side on a Supercars grid. Kurt Stenberg will start 5th, the champion-elect of season 2024. Egmanis will start alongside him in position number 6. Anthony Green in the Autobahn Sideways Esport light entry out of 7th. Lachlan Lock starting in 8th. He's actually had a pretty decent back end to the year since coming back into the fray. Steve Warwick starting in 9th, and Dane Liccardo starting in 10th. Leonard Grossel in 11th, and the balance of the grid from the halfway point backwards is Jacob Palfrey. He snuck up the order there after being down the road at turn number 9 earlier on in race number 1. Darren Logden in 13th. Cam Rutledge in 14th. He slipped back from where he started race number 1. He started at 11th, he's moved back to 14th. Darryl Callaghan starting 15th. Daniel Cox in 16th. And then the Luke Newing, SES Satellite Racing, not sure what happened there, why they needed to stop in the green flag scenario. Both at the same time. Tim Redmond splits them in 18th, Luke Speck in 19th. And then the last 2 cars on the grid. Rory Collins, who didn't finish that first race. So too Brandon Dostal. In fact, in Dostal's case, he didn't start. He was disqualified.
Yeah, so a bit of work to do for Dostal, and very much a trial by fire for him, but also what is technically his debut race, potentially, well, not necessarily, potentially, it's more or less locked in at this point that he's going to be, if he's going to be anywhere on the grid next year, it will be in Supercars after taking out the Super 2 title, but not the best start to what is his 2025 campaign, but he's still got a second race to try and make up for that.
That's it. We're around the final corner here, and he'll pull into the grid spot just right there. So all perfect. Everybody lined up, and we are ready to go. Let's go racing one last time in ASR Supercars in season 2024, and we are underway. Again, great start. Noah Turra did that 2 times in a row. There's been a slow starter off the back. I think it might have been Newing in the SES satellite entry. He's dropped right to the tail of the field here, and in fact he has. So Turra with the whole shot here. Kiddis coming under a little bit of fire here from Igmanis in the kit, the Knight Industries car, which has made up a spot. In fact, he might actually lose one here to Stenberg as they go through here. He's trying to fight that back. There was, I think there was a car around at the back as Anthony Green. There was a yellow flag that was out, albeit temporarily, but Green comes out of that. Oh, and Green actually has gone straight on and into the fence, so it's actually gotten worse for the number 10.
Yeah, he's just about recovered that from the wall. I have a feeling perhaps he has. Yeah, no, he has. He's picked up a front left puncture, so it's going to be a very long opening lap for Green and probably risk going a lap down. Yeah, when he gets back to the pits and replaces that tyre.
Actually had it coming together with Leonard Grossel there at the back of the field as well. We will pick that up on the replay right now. We'll bring that one to you to see what happened there. I think this one's probably going to be ruled a racing incident, I would say, when you see how it unfolds. So Liccardo in front and Grossel there, and I think, yes, Green checked up to avoid getting into the back of Liccardo and didn't leave Grossel any other alternative but to go straight into him. So I don't think the stewards are probably going to really need to penalise him for that. And then you see what happened there. Yeah, front right, front left puncture straight away and straight into the fence.
It also looked like Grossel actually got secondary contact from Palfrey after the first contact with Green, which actually pushed him around further. So, yeah, very much, I think, a passenger Grossel there. Very much, I think, was the train sort of congesting in front of him, not really where to go. So, really unfortunate for Green to put him right down the back, or not down the back, but down into the pit lane. He'll be lucky to get back around again, but look, Stenberg's proved that you can make it from the start of the race to the end on one tank, one set of tyres. So, potentially, safety car falls in a good spot. Green will get his lap back, and he might be able to push it out to the end.
Yeah, a little bit of safety car help from here. The race leaders are just coming down to turn 9 now, and Green is in the pits getting service. So he'll be lucky. He's about halfway down the lane, actually, so I think he's going to be very lucky to avoid going a lap down here. Just keeping an eye on things as they come around the final sequence of corners. Turra now up to turn 14. Green still stationary in the lane, and yeah, I think it's official. He will go a lap down.
Yeah, so not the best start, but he's got plenty of time to try and work that one back out of there with a little bit of luck from the racing gods as well. But speaking of that front of the field, Turra and Devonish have actually started to pull away pretty handily from Wayne Walker, who's got Kurt Stenberg all up over his chuff for that third place.
Yep, so Stenberg's managed to pass Alex Kiddis after getting fighting off the advances off. Oh, in the background there, what was going on there? There was Liccardo and a bunch of them in the fence, and
I think it's Igmanis who's facing backwards.
And Igmanis is gone. So we are just trying to get some tabs on what happened there. Liccardo in 6th, but there was some heavy situation going into turn number 4 here. Let's get this on the replay. This was really strange. Big lock-up from Igmanis. He went into the wall, and then, yeah, straight away, Liccardo managed to get through there okay. But I think that's terminal for Igmanis, and he is out.
Yeah, that was very strong Macau turn 3 energy there of just the car having its own accident and everybody else being relatively unsighted piling in behind. In this case, there was only one driver, being Liccardo, but not much to do there. Not much he could have done there. I think he's ran into his own line through the corner, and just Igmanis wasn't making his line through the corner and just kind of left hung out to dry there for Liccardo. So it's second or third contact he's had with another car on track that's not really been his fault tonight. He had one earlier with Rory Collins in race 1 when Rory snagged the inside wall through turn 10. So, yeah, real unfortunate for Termo. He's out after only 3 laps. And, yeah, early into the season for him, but he can put his feet up and get a beer out now.
Yeah, he certainly can. Oops! That was Palfrey a little bit out of shape going into turn 4 as well. Cox is going to be up the inside here, get 9th. So already the sillies are starting to kick off a little bit here. A few drivers pushing the envelope a little bit too hard. Some of these drivers don't have anything to lose, but some of them have also got everything to gain too. You know, the likes of Cam Rutledge, Daniel Cox, they're trying to amass as many points as possible to jump up over some of the other drivers that are not here tonight. So they can't afford any of these sorts of, you know, mistakes. Tim Redmond, as we said, he's safe. I think he probably was at 5th place in the standings, Rhodey, from what our math was telling us. And you know, he's got nothing to lose. So he's going to throw the kitchen sink at it in the hope of the top 10. But he's not going to do anything silly by doing so.
Yeah, I think it's only sort of the drivers the likes of, in this train at least, I think Speck's on for a fight somewhere. Technically Grossel is, but he's trying to make his way further up the field. He's not going backwards. It's only, I think, the likes of the head of this train, which is Cam Rutledge and Daniel Cox, that really have a concern about losing points. As I think somebody's around in the background. It is, and it was Luke Speck. Yep,
Speck is in the fence. So he's having to recover. And he was slowly making his way through from the back. That's going to put him back down to where he started, unfortunately. So he'll continue on there. Didn't quite see what the reason for that one was. I was keeping an eye on a few things going on out in front because this fight between Walker and Stenberg is starting to get quite willing here. Stenberg's had a couple of looks. Walker has got all the defensive lines covered at the moment, moving it over to the right-hand side of the track here. So already defensive mindset for the 217 machine and having to pick the right lines very, very early on here. All this time, the gap out in front has, between this 2 pair and the 2 pair up the road, is already out to 4.2 seconds after just 5 laps.
Yeah, and they'll be happily, I think at this point, like, Devonish would like to be ahead of Noah Turra, but he won't be on that sort of lap pace. But very much, I think, that, you know, as I was saying, they should be doing in race 1, thinking big picture. They just want to make as much of a gap as possible to Stenberg. I don't think Stenberg will be trying to go for the no-stop this race if an option occurs for him to be pitting, given that it looked like he very much intended to pit the last race. He just got to the decision point too late. But yeah, for them, they're just trying to get clear off Stenberg. It's currently a 5-second gap between Turra and Stenberg. So just trying to jet away, and Devonish should be riding Turra's coat trails the whole way along, and they'll probably, if things continue as they are, it'll be probably towards the last couple of laps of this race that Devonish maybe starts to turn the wick up and try and get a move done on Turra.
Yep, I think so too. Noticed an early stop for Jacob Palfrey as well, so he has come in he was sort of in this group here behind Tim Redmond and co, and has already stopped, and he's actually not retired from this race as well. So that's 2 retirements and 2 non-starters for this one. As Redmond sizes the opportunity on Cam Rutledge here. Cam sees it coming. Redmond had such a better exit off of turn 8, and through he goes. The old racing at number 43, up to 10th place.
Yeah, so good little last run so far for Tim. Granted, he's been running right in the thick of it with this battle pack. I mean, that's where we've seen a lot of the incidents. I think most of the retirements have come from drivers either in this battle pack or because of their involvement in this battle pack. But yeah, he's done a good job getting through on Rutledge. Rutledge, as I mentioned, one of the 2 drivers in this train, probably driving a little bit more conservatively because, yeah, he's in a battle where the drivers are, you know, a couple 10s or 20s or 30s or odds of points ahead of him. There are drivers not that far behind him that are also racing that could take him back to position. And just generally speaking, Rutledge is currently running an 11th, which is, I don't think it's his best run for the year, but it's definitely up there. And same for Cox sitting up in 9th. So I don't think they'll mind losing a spot or 2, but they'd much rather lose a spot or 2 than try a bit harder and lose 5.
That's right. So behind Redmond, you can see Cam actually having to fend off Brandon Dostal and Leonard Grossel here as well. Grossel, who was so close to his, I was about to say, is Dostal inside there in turn 8. And it's almost going to be 3 wide down here at turn number 9 for a little bit. Dostal has got a little bit of command on the inside here, so Cam has to leave him a little bit of space, and they actually on wheels for a little bit there. And Cam comes out with the high ground, but it's all but brief. Brandon got a little bit too, I think, excited by the fact that Cam had been a bit slow and opened the door, and then he went back behind Grossel. So, that's, I guess as you said, Rody, it's a little bit of a dress rehearsal for Dostal at this point, considering that it looks almost certain, but it's looking highly likely that he will go into the top tier category next year.
Yeah, well, I will say actually that contact was a little bit, I think, of Dostal getting happy, but I think he did get slightly lent on by Grossel. There was a point there running into, I think it was, turn 10, where there was the two of them were too wide, Dostal and Rutledge. There was very clearly cars were at the inside, and I can see that Grossel had a look, then thought about it again and thought, 3 wide through turn 11 probably won't work. As it turns out, 2 wide almost didn't quite work either. But yeah, it's definitely a willing battle, but I think Grossel, at least he feels like there was contact there with him and Dostal, and I suppose he's in the best position to know whether there was contact or not, so he ended up regressing that at the last corner. So they'll be putting their heads down. As we said, they're both sort of driving something to lose. Cam's driving something to lose, so even though they're trying to put a passing move on each other down at the hairpin, they will be catching.
Grossel goes through and picks up position number 12, so that's a change there. This fight's still going on. Stenberg's had about a half a dozen looks here at Walker over the last couple of laps. Now, the part where he seems to be stronger is up through the staircase, up through sort of turn 4, turn 5, turn 6. So up under the braking zone here, Stenberg gets a really good run, and then sometimes he's able to get down alongside the 217 Mustang going into turn 5, and then they run side by side up through here and into 6, and then it sort of goes back to status quo. So there's a couple of spots where Stenberg's just a little bit stronger. Walker's just having to play those defensive lines, but Walker getting a much better traction purchase out of turn 7, and then he just opens up this little gap, and then it gives him enough of a lead going into turn 8 and then onto turn 9, where he doesn't need to worry about the threat behind.
Yeah, I almost get the impression that Stenberg is overdriving the car a little bit at this point, because he's definitely finding lines that the other cars around him aren't taking. Some of them are quicker, but at the same time, he's pretty consistently found the apex wall at turn 8, which, if real life anything to go by, that's not the thing you want to be doing in a Gen 3 supercar.
No.
He's got away with it in the way that the guys a week ago weren't. But even then, for all the work he's doing to catch Walker, he sags a wall somewhere and loses it all again within a corner. I don't even think it's like we've accused some of the guys of in this year, or generally before that, of playing with their food for a pass. This is actually something Kurt's having to put a lot of effort into, and I think he's had the pace to control the field. He hasn't just had the pace to get back up to the front of it, or at least not this race. Whether he's changed direction or what's happened, the car isn't driving, I think, the way that he wants it to, as much as it was in race 1.
Yeah, Steve Warwick just had a moment coming through turn 13. He actually had to scour the grass and go the long way around to come back onto the circuit. That dropped him out of position there, and a bit further down the order. Now he finds himself sandwiched in between Grossel and Cam Rutledge as well, and probably I'd say under fire here. That was a bit of a shame, because he was inside the top 10 up until that point.
Yeah, good little sort of quite consistent run for Steve. Very much taking advantage of a good run, and one of the few guys not to stop in the first race. Yeah, maybe just hasn't quite had the pace of what the very least his teammate, who's obviously pulled on through. He's now got Dostal actually giving him a bit of a run, and these guys were on track with each other last week. Steve's a bit more familiar with these cars than Dostal is, so a bit of a leg up for Steve in that department. But yeah, Dostal's back on him again already, and Dostal's prepared to have another crack at a pass here, probably in the next lap. So that's what he is doing the same thing I was assisting Kurt's doing. He just overdrove that corner and lost himself in the 10th as well. So yeah, just getting a little bit excited, a little bit of like a kind of like a toy poodle.
A toy poodle.
Yeah, that sort of just uncontained excitement that He sees a car and he's just jumping. Do the thing the small dogs do when they're that small. They're just trying to reach a kneecaps because that's all they can get to because they're that small. He's just popping up and down with that sort of energy, and it just means that he gets to an apex and he scares himself off the apex and loses 2 tenths.
That's going to be on the highlight reel for those that are tuning in for the broadcast. I guess that comes in December. That's Rody referring to or likening Brandon Dostal to a toy poo.
A toy poodle, yes.
A toy poodle. Anyway, so that battle for 12th and 13th continues on for the moment. Meanwhile, Leonard Grossel, a couple of car lengths ahead, is actually starting to give Rutledge a hard time, who's held on pretty well here inside the top 10 with everybody around him losing their head, and he's been able to keep his. Grossel, who I was about to say before a couple of laps ago, as you can see in the background there, looks like Warwick is actually going to lose the spot this time to Dostal again, and he does. Oh no, and into the wall for Warwick as well. And I'm not sure if that's going to be terminal. We'll keep an eye on that one. I think it might
I believe it is. I can see a bit of flame there, a bit of smoke and flame. So unfortunately, that was really simple as well. He was just jammed up the rear bumper of the Higgins and Media motorsport machine, and I think just the weight transfer and whatnot, or the weight and balance got on throttle, and it was just a whole bunch of wheel spin, and the car was around into the fence. Yep,
sadly it was. So unfortunately out of this one. Now, can I get my comment in please before anything else happens? I was about to say Grossel, who came very close to winning his first race in ASR Supercars last round out at Topor in what was probably one of the battles of the season that we've seen between himself and Kurt Stenberg, going down to the last couple of corners with how that exchange was. I think probably only, as he gets down the inside there as Rutledge makes a mistake, probably only second, I would say, Rody, to the battle we saw Brett Foley and Kurt Stenberg have at the bend earlier.
Yeah, I'd even put from that same week had in race 2. It was over a longer, protracted session. It was really just little fits and little spits and sputters of a battle. But the battle that Devonish and even Stenberg had in race 2, that was very much of a BTC C90 style battle. But yeah, as well, the battle we saw with Foley and with Stenberg, and I think there's been a couple in Dev Series that have held up to that sort of count as well. But at least especially for Grossel, for somebody who's not in the, as I was saying for Foley in that matter, drivers who aren't in that top 4, top 5 picture usually. Grossel's proved he's had the pace to be there at times. He's just maybe hadn't had the consistent run that he'd like to have this year, and to make all the rounds to begin with. And Foley, I mean, previous season champion, but granted, it was a different scene in 2019. There were some drivers not on the field that are on the field now, and there were some drivers at different levels than they are now. But still, previous season champion, he is capable of picking up wins here and there. He did pick up, I think, another win again this year. But yeah, if things fall well for him, he's always pretty strong at come Enduro season. He is always pretty strong on a couple of the tracks on the calendar. Yeah, good to see him fight out as well. But that's half the fun of it is the guys at the front, in this case both being Stenberg, getting a chance to fight people they're not familiar with, and just work their way around, see what that's like. Because you can probably get a little bit boring fighting the same guys over and over, because you know where your strengths and weaknesses are. You know where you can send a move and where you have to defend. You introduce someone new to the picture, and there's something new. There's a bit more of a challenge to it.
No, that's right. So the SES cars, the satellite entry cars, are running 12th and 13th at the moment. Ewing here is being chased pretty decently by Rory Collins, and he's gone a little bit too deep there at the hairpin. But this is looking a little bit better for Sideways Esport or satellite team this time around compared to how they ran in race number 1. I'm still trying to work out what on earth happened in that first race where they needed to pit a second time outside the safety car. The only thing I can think of is that it must have been fuel related. They mustn't have got enough fuel in those cars.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. They might have been driving their cars to a number early on in the race, and as it turns out, they didn't actually drop enough fuel to make space for the fuel they needed, with the ability to go hard for the rest of the race. Because I think I was had a quick thumb through the race facts earlier. I think the suggestion was the earliest you want to pick. Well, you need to take on 6 laps worth of fuel. Safety car didn't fall much after lap 6, lap 7, lap 8. They might not have burnt through enough.
No, maybe not. Well, let's get a chance to have a look at our race facts actually, because we didn't get a really good look at them last time around. So, as you saw, the pit stops are optional if you're going by Kurt Stenberg and Steve Warwick in race number 1. It can be done. The fuel burn, as you said there, it's about 4.1 to 4.5 litres a lap with a 133 litre fuel tank. So you can do the math there. Excuse me. You can do the math there and work out, yes, you do need to take on a handful of laps worth of fuel if it's green flag running, but you can save a bit of fuel behind the safety car and make it and then drive to the fuel number. And then, well, there's only one thing you can say about this place, and that's you've got to mind the concrete, because you can see it's absolutely everywhere.
It is, yeah. It's already been responsible for, I think it's now 2 deaths out of tonight's racing so far, and
2 deaths and at least 1 non-starter for this one.
Yes, yeah, no, good point, yeah. Yeah, so that's a common thing, street circuits in general, but Adelaide, yeah, it's one of those, like, the track's been the same for, basically ever since they started here in 1999. But it's always seems to be a new challenge for some drivers, even those that, even in ASR, where we've been here for, what is it now, 1, 2, 3, I think it's our 7th or 6th or 7th time here.
7th year, yeah, I'm pretty sure we've been here every year, so in some form or another. Like I said, in 2018 it was 2, because Adelaide was first, and then the older style lap from 1988 was second, but I think it's been on the calendar every single year.
Yeah, I think the only exception was the 1 year we ran this as an enduro, but even then,
That's
I think
right.
the only stuff that's changed in that time is the one wall people were managing to avoid hitting so far tonight. It wasn't something they avoided in Dev Series quite so well, but it's the wall at turn 7 that's crept in year on year. IRL, actually, they've moved it back this year, so hopefully for next year we'll get a chance to move that back to mirror it, where you take a little bit more of the curve. That said, the way that Lisa Gen 3 drives over that curve, I don't think most people are using that curve, because they're a bit more pitch happy than the Super 2 cars around curves that big. So moving that wall back might not actually do anything for these guys, probably more of a thing for the Dev Series guys. But yeah, the track's been the same. Actually, I've just seen Anthony Green's pin on this one as well.
Yep. And pit stop sequences are actually starting. Yeah, so Cam Rutledge just kicked it off. Wayne Walker, who's on our screen here, has just come out from the stop, and noticing Daryl Callaghan is in the lane now, and Rutledge has just gone past him as Tara sets a new fastest lap. There is the monster truck inspired livery there. Daryl Callaghan, who's in the Ben Hall car tonight, he's just getting his service there at the moment. I imagine a bit of damage and some fuel to boot as well, as we await to see where the next lot of stops are going to come from and who's going to trigger them. Oh, and I can see, I think it's Lockie Lock, I think is the next one who's in the lane. Yep, there he is, and Daniel Cox as well. So right around a half distance mark, give or take a lap.
Yeah, I think we're going to start to see, with no real reason they're going to come in outside of hitting the window, I think we're going to start to see them sort of trickle in. We're probably going to, I'd be very surprised if we end up seeing any teammates being together. But yeah, especially to see them trickle in as they go. The interesting bit will be, I know I called earlier that it might not be that Kurt had the pace, but look, it's possible, and I suppose we'll see in the next couple of laps whether he comes to the lane or not. He has proved to himself that he can run around without pitting, and look, if he could do the rest of the race without having to come to the lane, he would make up. Well, I think it's 22 seconds just to do line to line in the lane, let alone the stop time.
That's right.
He'd make up 30-40 seconds on the guys he's racing, which look, based on his pace, they might catch him, but then they're going to pass him again. And based off of race 1, that will be pretty. I say that. Dear. No. Well, I've knockers on him.
Track infringement, Kurt Stenberg. So a little bit greedy through the centre chicane. That will be a drive-through for the 47. I'll tell you what, over the years, I don't recall calling his number too many times for a track infringement and for a bad sportsmanship flag.
No, he's been pretty well behaved with most of those. I think the only time he's been snagged for any sort of infringement is when we've done when a lot of the field's been done. Like I remember there was a couple of years ago where we had to manually police people's run through turn 1 at QR that we weren't hogging into the pit lane, and I think even I got snagged a couple of times for that. But I think that's the only time that I think, at least in my memory, that we've, and I don't even know if it was for certain that Kurt's been snagged for a track infringement. So perhaps, look, it might just be that, yeah, the car's conserve's gone in a different direction. It's not driving the way he wants it to. Look, it's, even to be fair, I know Kurt's kind of turned over a new leaf with this year, but I know Kurt of old was. It'd be very surprising if Kurt was sober for a race night. He might have cracked into the beers for race 2, which might explain the way the car's been behaving for him and being a little bit more liberal with the track extensions. Because he might have picked up 1 or 2 in race 1, and I know that he got pretty sure he got one of his track cuts off the restart because he was pretty wide, trying to pull away from the cars around him. But yeah, different sort of race. But again, as we said, he's locked in. He can do what he wants with. He can do what he wants with this one.
Yeah, that's right. He's effectively locked in. So everybody up into Cam Rutledge is on the lead lap. So Rutledge and ahead of him, Lockie Lock and Daniel Cox, they all have stopped, and Rutledge is getting the blue flags here, so he immediately moves out of the way, lets the leader through. I'm not 100% sure when the leaders are going to stop. We are beyond the half distance mark here, so effectively if you were cutting the race in half, you would just come in and get it over and done with, but sometimes you just want, as Devonish dives for the lane here, he pulls the trigger. I think you don't want to do anything silly. You don't want to actually run around and be caught out in a bad spot when if a safety car does get called and then you can't get into the lane. Like the thing that you would hate to see is coming around the final corner, safety car gets called, you haven't got the opportunity to stop, you've got to go around again. If you've got enough of a margin, then you get in and you get that stop done. Stenberg actually now, ironically, is coming in to actually make a pit stop because he has served the drive-through and he's now coming in to take that, he served his drive-through, he's coming in to take service.
Yeah, so, so it does lean into, so he was genuinely pushing with that battle with Walker. He just was unable to get the car to do what he wanted it to, because he did prove he could make it without stopping, but I think probably it was locked in for him once he got that drive-through that, look, even if he went around without stopping, he'd be dropping in maybe 5 or 10 seconds ahead of the cars that were having to catch him. They had 20 laps to catch him. They were on fresher tyres. It was going to be a very big challenge to try and hold his position. So I think he's just trying to follow what the rest of the train does, and perhaps, he might diverge later on in the race if an opportunity arises.
That's right. I'll tell you what, Cox is actually pursuing the car here of Darren quite hard. I'll tell you what, Cox has got to be very careful of his own right, because look at this is happening here at the back of Lockman's car. He's getting challenged by Lockie Lock, who draws from that move at that point in time. But good scrap here for the last position inside the top 10. I'm not sure if we've seen Noah Tara come in for a stop just yet. Doesn't look like we have. He's up at turn 4. Devon's just down at turn 11. So Tara pressing on with the lead at the moment here. Stenberg has dropped 4 spots after doing that double take through pit lane. He's now 7th, and he's some 64 seconds off the lead of the race. I'm just trying to work out. No, Alex Kiddis has been in the lane. I don't think Luke Newing has, though.
I don't believe so. I'll have to have an easy way of determining that from what I've got in front of me. I don't believe...
Let's have a look. I'm going to double check on the... I can actually double check on the detail here. No, yeah. We have not seen the number 17 stop just yet.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say that, like, it's sitting in a sort of real crossover point for position in the field where, yeah, he's been tailed by guys, he's raced around guys that have pit, but
and the leader is in.
And yeah, the leader is in now, so that's going to it won't cleanse the entire, but it will at least cleanse that lead battle. We'll put that back to what we're seeing on track rather than what we're seeing on the timing screen.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to see with all of this that's gone on if Will Devonish actually jumps Noah Tara through the stop sequence here. As Brandon Dostal gets a penalty, that will be a track limits infringement one, because he is also in the lane, has to left the lane. So with Noah Tara is officially on the move down the pit chute here, and I think he's actually done quite enough to hang on to this lead here as Devonish locks up in the final corner, and Tara is just leaving the lane here now. So it'll be close, but I think Tara may have just done enough, and he has by about 3/4 of a second, I'm going to say. Maybe a second.
Yeah, as long as he gets his tyres back up to temp and get the car comfortable, it would be pretty good to settle back in and keep going. And what it has done as well is looming in the background is Walker is just slowly reining them in.
Yeah, well, I think Walker's been setting some fairly decent laps. He was purple last time around. He was the fastest lap of the race, 1:20.8 on the previous tour. And he's been silently chipping away there. He was, I think, in the lane, one of the earlier stoppers. So he's used the tyre effectively to try and catch up or traded rubber and grip for the ultimate track position to be in striking distance. But the question will be, has he got anything to fight these two in front of him over the remaining 11 laps? Because these guys have got much newer tyres compared to when he came in, probably at least 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, with the hards and with the life they have, that probably won't actually do much in practice, but it might just be even as simple as right now there's not a concern, but at the back end of this, Walker might hit a wouldn't be a steep cliff, but he would hit some sort of potentially some sort of drop off 4 or 5 laps before the two in front of him do, which could be the deciding factor ultimately. But he is, for what matters now, he is starting to rein them in. I imagine, well, actually probably I think the best run of the 3 there through the chicanes. So playing it very smartly. I'm not sure where he's at on track cuts. I imagine if he's got any up his sleeve, he's hanging on to them for when he needs them. But yeah, pretty good run so far for Walker. He's going to probably be on this pace, be on the back of them in the next 2 or 3 laps, and then we'll just see what happens from there.
Yeah, he's got 2 more cuts up his sleeve before he sees the bad sportsmanship flag, and then he ends up in some trouble. So that's according to the information we have at hand. Tell you what, someone who's behind them, who's not really threatening anything here, but I think is possibly playing the no-stop strategy here, is Tim Redmond.
Yeah, I'm not sure when I don't think I have seen Redmond in the lane, and
he has not stopped.
Track, he was running like 9th or 10th before the pit lane window started, and that would make sense. So yeah, he's getting closed up slowly by Kiddis, who
has stopped.
But it's I think only within the margin of something in the region of it's only yo-yoing. It might be in the region of 6 or 7 tenths of a second for the lap. Fastest lap again for Wayne Walker. He's approaching getting into the 19s in race trim, so he's definitely on a fly.
He's ploughing on with it, and let's put it this way: Devonish was only 3/10 of a second slower, and Tara was only 2/10 of a second slower last time around than the lap that Wayne Walker has just set. So it will take a little, and the gap between all 3 of them combined is about 1.5 seconds. So it will take a couple more laps for it to fully condense to the point where Walker's actually getting some slipstream benefit. So I'm just keeping an eye on Redmond here. So he's up at turn 7 now, and you can see there he's got about 14 seconds or so in his pocket. And then you've got Alex Kiddis, who's down at turn 5. So Kiddis has definitely got much fresher tyres on, but amazingly, his last lap around was only 3/10 of a second quicker than Redmond. It wasn't significant enough.
Yeah, he had a bit of his best laps put him in the 20s, but I'm guessing had a bit of a butter job on that lap and threw away a little bit of time somewhere in it. Probably just trying. It wouldn't be the first driver to do it. Probably just trying a bit too hard to catch him, because at least as things sit now, if Redmond continues on to the end, he probably could get him as Redmond's tyres start to fall off, and if Redmond has to start driving to a number to make the rest of it up. And actually, Devonish, the first one into the 19, only just 19.996, but he's responded to Walker, and this will be while he's jammed up the rear of the 26, so he's done a pretty good job to set a faster lap time than the car he's following without passing him. But yeah, just keeping that gap alive a little bit, and actually Redmond actually has come into the lane.
Yep, so Redmond unfortunately couldn't make the no-stop work, so he has pitted. Now he's going to fall behind this group of cars on screen here. So Collins, then you've got Grossel, and you've got Cox and Locke and Liccardo. So they are all going to go past the Beyond Racing number 43. I'll tell you what, that's a defensive move if ever I saw it from Rory Collins, right down the middle of the road, and probably maybe fractionally to the driver's right of the centre line as they go past the pit lane here. And where is...
He was already out.
He's
He
gone.
had a much shorter stop than I think we were expecting.
Wow.
I think maybe he was only like a lap or two short from his numbers, and he just was able to splash and dash it because the estimation was 6 laps of fuel. And and to be fair, the estimation maybe is fuel over tyres, so he's just making sure he can get the fuel to the end.
Maybe.
And he's been driving, and he's going to essentially no stop the tyres, whereas everyone else would have probably grabbed tyres while they were in the lane anyway.
Yeah, well, the tyres would have been covered, or some tyres would have been covered by the fuel, but the difference is you can only do a set of lefts, a set of rights, or actually you can do individual tyres now, but the problem is they don't jack the car up to the point where it does one side of the car individually. So that's where the time loss happens to be. So for Redmond, he's actually dropped back behind Luke Newing, and well, let's just see what happens there. That's elevated Stenberg to 5th as well. Back to this slugfest that's going on for 8th. Collins absolutely parking the bus at every possible opportunity here, not taking the racing lines. He is very much saying, if you want to pass me, you are going to have to throw a haymaker somewhere at it, right? Again, defensive right down the middle of the road. Grossel know where to go. Cox know where to go. Liccardo up the inside of Locke, and a little bit of elbow shoving there. What do you do? What do you do in this situation, Rody? You've got people up your clacker. You've got someone else up your clacker behind you. Here we go. Up the inside. Turn 4. No, switch. Cox makes the move this time. And is he up the inside far enough? He is.
Himself into a spin.
Yep, there he goes. So that takes him out of the equation. Cox is going to go the long way here, and unfortunately for him, has to concede defeat there. And I'll tell you what, this is... I've never seen a little bit of a battle like this. I've never seen somebody drive defensively like Collins has been for the last 3 or 4 laps. He's not pushing the limits. It's getting to the point of, you know, as long as he calls it early enough, then he can't be pinged for the blocking. So what he's done there is you can see it perfectly from the onboard here with Leonard Grossel. He's picked the line, he's picked it early, and he's stayed with it all the way down. So that's where the difference is between driving defensively and blocking, where with blocking you're effectively moving over on the car, or you're making a decision to head off that car's attempt at trying to pass you. But and he makes the mistake. He goes for it one too many times, and Grossel's through.
Yeah, I was going to say he was very much sort of just reading everything from the textbook on how to do it and how to do it properly, how to push the limit, but how to break through it. And actually, it nearly resulted in Cox spinning because he was, he was covering all options through. Actually, I think he just left. Kind of just wave block through there. He was covering all options on Grossel coming out of the hairpin to the point where to cover off the line he was on. A little bit of a lean from Cox there. He was covering off all options, and to the point where he actually delayed getting on throttle so he could straighten the car up. What that meant was Grossel had to check up, and it meant that Cox behind wasn't paying attention and got right into the back of Grossel, and he spun himself. Which you see that in defensive driving is just, your lead car, as long as you're not being dangerous with it, you can do with it as you wish, and that can include delaying to get on throttle to make sure the car's straightened up, with the added benefit that it checks up the car you're racing. But he's gone from pretty comfortably leading this train, not unlike Stenberg in race 1, to now he's in this train. He doesn't seem to have the pace to get back to the top of it again.
Newing is actually trying the no-stop, and unfortunately for him, he's been passed by Tim Redmond. So that hasn't worked out in his favour to be able to hold on to 6th place. But nonetheless, he's only got about 5 laps to go, Luke Newing, and then the next car that's behind them on the circuit is actually Leonard Grossel, who's just crossing the start-finish line now. So he's the better part of almost a full sector behind. But his last lap was a 21.8. Newing's last lap actually was registered a track violation on the previous tour, and a penalty for Dane Liccardo for too many curb hops, I would say, over the centre chicane.
Yeah, most likely. A couple of other spots you can snag a track cut around Adelaide, but the easy one is the run through 1, 2 and 3. It'd almost be better in a way if there were the tyre bundles there, but we've seen what that does with a fast chicane as well, so it's probably better off for the field that it is an open tyre, an open chicane, but it doesn't mean very easy to cut. Just a wide open expansive curb, it's very easy to try and pick up some speed on, or just wobble a little bit wide. So he's going to have to tour the lane. No, you won't actually make it to the end without being able to get away with that drive through. And
No, you'll have to stay on to come through.
it's one of those rare times where it's actually better to serve your drive through because it's a 22-second lane versus a 30-second automatic penalty. So you're actually benefiting from serving the drive through.
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, look, even in his case, he's only going to lose 2 spots. It'll be Spec behind and Rutledge behind him, purely because the next 3 cars behind him, Dostal, Lognan and Calais, are all a lap down. So you may as well get in and you may as well get the job done, and he's reacting to that now. So get that over and done with. Do not take the risk. And as you said, it was not like it was within the last 2 laps where it would have just tacked on 30 seconds. Yeah, you're right. You're just losing the... he's going to go a lap down here anyway. But you're losing time by, not taking the opportunity to do your drive-through and take the lesser time penalty for it. Then, wait until the end of the race. At the end of the day, in the game, you have to take within 3 laps. Otherwise, it disqualifies you. So he knew he had to. Absolutely. There you go. Drops him down to 16th. And in actual fact, I didn't realise where the race leaders were relative to him, so that actually put him a lap down, so that actually means he does fall back behind Dostal. So you'll have a chance of getting past Lognan, but probably not much else after that. Well, I'm going to keep an eye on Tim Redmond here, Brady, because just keeping a look at the lap times he's doing, 21.3 last time around, Stenberg's 22.5. And get a read on things this time as they come across the stripe. So Redmond 20.9
is
to
Stenberg's
22
seconds
9.
faster than Stenberg that lap. So there might be a little bit in the back end of this race. The gap is 2.3 seconds. That's coming down. It might be on for the last lap or the last half a lap of this race, but Redmond might sneak his way into the top 5.
I wouldn't put it past him. He might be able to snaffle a top 5 finish here. The top 3 have actually strung out, so Tara's actually put his foot down. In fact, Tara himself has actually set the fastest lap of the race the last, not the last time around, but a little bit earlier. He's actually, him and Devonish are the only 2 in the 19, so let's just listen to this for a minute. Okay, so 1 minute, so 1:19.966 versus 1:19.996 as Liccardo gets another drive through. Attempt at getting through the centre chicane, but ultimately unsuccessful.
Just trying to figure out, I saw a car backwards.
Darren
run off at 4.
Well, Darren Lognan is coming to the lane, so I'm just mindful maybe whether he might have been the one down the escape road there in turn 4.
No, it wouldn't have. I don't know, I was just looking at Dane and... Oh, hang on, it might have been. Hang on. Might have been Devon. Yeah, it was Devonish.
Actually, Devonish, there you go. So you're absolutely right. He has coughed it up. So he's coughed up position number 2, and he has indeed made a bit of a right hash or something. What did he actually do? Let's see.
Going down the runoff at. No, he tried braking on the curb on the way into 4.
Yep, we'll actually get a replay of this before the race is out. So let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, he was comfortably behind Noah Tara. And he actually had a brake lock up before he'd even hit the curb. So for Devonish, that's what she wrote down there. Big mistake in the braking zone, and that costs him 3rd place on the road. Last lap of season 2024, and the hometown man is looking set to do the double. He didn't snaffle the pole, but he's got the win from race 24, and at this stage he's going to take the last win of the year for season 2025. He doesn't need to do anything silly. He's got plenty of air margin here. Rutledge is one of the stablemates, and quite heavily into the wall there I think as well, and actually lets Noah go down the inside at turn number 9. So set for maximum points for I guess it's the first time actually in his career where he has he's clean swept both all the maximum amount of points you can earn from a race weekend, and I mean, that was very important for him in terms of potentially being in the battle for with him and Wayne Walker. But he'll slide out of the final corner to the line, and he will bank the other 150 points to make it 300 out of a possible 300 for the last round of the season. and a 5th win for the year. Well done to Noah Tara. Well done on 2nd place to Wayne Walker there. Will Devonish with a 3rd place finish for him. Alex Kiddis, a 4th place finish for him. So he actually gets a pair of 4ths for the round. So his best round of the season. He actually had a 4th place round finish at the first race at Topor last time out as well. So he will pick up another 4th tonight. And then behind them, what's happening in the battle with Stenberg and Kurt and Tim Redmond? It's going to be resolved in Stenberg's favour with probably just enough, I guess, in the tank. Oh, a little bit of a slide off the final corner there. Oh, that made it gave us a bit of a heart attack there right at the very end. But Stenberg with a 5th place finish, and that goes with the 5th place he had in race number 1. With Tim Redmond a 6th place finish there in that one, bringing him another good chunk of points. Luke Newing, the no-stop. It worked. He got to 7th place, 10 spots gained. Leonard Grossell up to 8th, Lockie Lock up to 9th, and Luke Speck, he gets a top 10 finish to round out the season.
Coxie home in 11th. Cam Rutledge actually first the cars a lap down. So in the end, only 11 cars finishing on the lead lap with this one. I think what happens you have 100 Ks of racing without the appearance of the safety car. So the safety car actually had its last appearance in the 2nd last race of the season. The safety car driver, one of a few in this race, able to get his feet up early and suppose in the case of race control, get into the lines. So in the end, only 11 cars finished on the lead lap, with Cox in 11th, Cam Rutledge home in 12th, Rory Collins home in 13th, Dolstall puts in points on the board, is home in 14th, Darryl Callahan home in 15th. Lognan managed to finish in 16th, with Liccardo actually finishing with a drive-through at the end of the day, so he cleared his first one to pick up a second one, so he's finished right down the back in 17th. And actually the last of the finishes, Green was the last to retire. Steve Rorick we saw with a blown engine. Jacob Palfrey, according to the lane, retired as well. Curtis Egmanis was out fairly early, and that's all of the cars from the race.
It certainly is. And that is season 2024 in the books. Well, it is the last day of school, so I guess you can be forgiven for thinking that, well, usually the champion wants to do the burnouts, but in the cases here, I think it's being shared around. The love is being shared around. Like Cox, I think you might just hit a wall by doing that. There is your champion. He is down at turn 11 here and on his way to the checkered flag here. I guess not so much the checkered flag, but to the front straight here. 3 titles now for Stenberg. First of the titles in the Gen 3 era goes his way. He, of course, was last champion in 2022. And again, a couple of years earlier than that, I think it was 2020, he was the series champion. Sorry, 2020 he was the series champion as well. So there's been a couple of... there's nobody that's ever gone back-to-back in ASR Supercars. There we go. Now, Rhodey, I think, is going to try and round up those that the interviewees for today's proceedings. And if we're going off the math, it's Noah Turra, who is the victor for the round. As it sits right now, we do have to call it as things were. It would actually be Will Devonish for the round on a count back as second, because he did get the pole position, because him and Walker both had 2nd and 3rd place finish each. So Walker would be 3rd, and then Stenberg would, Alex Kiddis would actually be 4th for the round, with Kurt Stenberg in 5th. For the round, the champion for the year. So I'll let Rhodey sort that out while we have a look at how the points have actually sorted themselves out. Just punching in a couple of things here. So as it sits, before anything is officially considered changed here, Kurt Stenberg wins the 2024 ASR Championship title by 232 points to Will Devonish. But potentially with something else that might come out of things at the end of the day. Noah Tara, as it currently sits, is third, ahead of Wayne Walker by a comfortable margin. Tim Redmond fifth. Curtis Igmanis, unfortunately for him, that non-finish in that last race was actually kind of critical because he had not amassed enough points from finishing in race 24 in sixth place to jump over the top of Brenton Foley. So that means that Foley actually hangs on to sixth place in the standings with Igmanis in seventh, and then there's still a couple of points that are yet to be worked out. But I think Cox will be safe in eighth because Green didn't finish the second race. And Lockie Lock actually finished both races, but I think may have done just enough potentially to jump over Green to jump him into ninth place. So we'll wait and see how everything pans out from there as we wait to bring all of our drivers in for a little bit of a chat, I think. So we'll move a few of them around and bring them up while Rody organises a couple of things. We may as well go over now. It has been a bit of a long night. We will go over to the Beyond Electrical round review to have a little bit of a chat with the drivers that are coming up. I think we might have, and I believe we do have, for the a catch up here, the hometown hero. So he lives not too far from this circuit IRL, and he has taken out the top step on both the podiums tonight. Noah Tara, I'll hand you over to Rody, but congratulations on your on winning both races tonight. Didn't quite get the pole position, but and otherwise you did a fine job out there. Well done.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, I know I didn't have the car in quality and the confidence really. Like I don't know, got it all sorted in the race though. So oh well, that's what matters.
That's exactly what matters.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no points for qualifying, so you got the points in where it mattered. And I think as Nether made the point, actually, we say we made the point, but actually, just looking back through the stats, this isn't actually the first time you've clean swept the weekend. You did also do this at Gold Coast, but good showing for the back end of the season, and I suppose promising signs for what 2025 might look like.
Yeah, hopefully I can keep it going. I doubt my pace in terms of others will improve or anything. I just go well at a couple of the tracks, and then average it all the rest. But yeah, hopefully I can keep this up for the first round next year.
Well, okay, I was going to lead into the next question because obviously there's no opportunity to ask you guys now what you think about the next track on the calendar, given that we are at the end of the season. So up to everyone in here, you can give away as little or as much detail as you want, but what are your plans for 2025?
I'm just going to attack it the same. Yeah, nothing really special. I don't have any extra plans or any tricks up my sleeve. I'll just go about it as I do and see where I end up pretty much.
Fair enough. Well, great work tonight, Noah, and you did what you needed to pick up maximum points at your hometown race, and we will be catching you on the grid again in 2025.
Yep, thank you, Reddy.
Moving on to, and he won it only by virtue of countback with the pole position. Will Devonish, you did about as much as good as you could with the back end of this with the last race. It was going to be a pretty tall order to beat Stenberg for the title, though.
Yeah. Look, we weren't delusional coming into the round. Stenny just had to finish a race, and that was it. But look, we that's not what we came for this year. We wanted the team's championship back, and we got that. I'm really proud of the team and CRE. I think we've gotten both teams 1 and 2 up there. So really proud of everyone in the team: Cam, Termo, Coxie, Noah, Locke, and Scotty, who's been engineering us throughout the year.
Well, yeah, and speaking of, I mean, you're technically not the anchoring part of one of the biggest teams. Is actually your teammate being the naming rights sponsor of the team, but still one of the founding members of CRE and all its involvement with the grid this year. You've had a pretty good effort. You've obviously been running a couple of cars across a couple of teams across Supercars, and you're contributing your own rivals now for the title fight. But you've also been running a little bit of a development series program on the side as well.
Yeah, well, look, that sort of fell over with the drivers not rocking up for the first 3 rounds, so didn't have much of a go at it this year, but never know for next. Um, so yeah, but yeah, main focus has been supercars, and we got that this year. But yeah, before I head off, I wanted to say thanks to Higo and Rossi for the fantastic mod this year. It's generated fantastic racing. And I think this season's been one of the best seasons we've had, with 7 odd drivers win races, probably double digits on the podium. So I'm excited to what's coming up, especially from the guys from Dev Series. We've got like Dostal, Spec, Ryan, and Ewing. Like they're superstars coming through the field and really challenging everyone in main game. So yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to next year, see what comes.
Absolutely. Well, from what you're saying, like you'll be back on the grid again next year, hopefully having another crack at trying to get that one back on the door.
Absolutely. And finally, I'd like to thank Kurt for all the racing this year. It's it might not look it on track, but I actually really enjoy catching up to him and having ding-dong battles. And I think we've given as good as we got throughout the whole year. So thank you very much for the racing.
That's good to hear. We will catch you. Oh, sorry. Well, firstly, great work tonight, Will, and we will catch you again in 2025s.
Thank you.
We normally would switch over to the third podium getter, or actually, it was a podium getter. Sorry, no, it wasn't a podium getter. Sorry, tonight. But we'll save him for lucky last, given his result for this year. So Tim Rembrandt, a little bit belated, and it had to be with the way it played out. But just quietly, you did manage to pick up your first win in Supercars at Taupo.
Yeah, absolutely stoked, obviously, to pick up a win. It's a shame, we're all race drivers, so it comes down to it. We obviously want to try and win on track, and just the way that the penalties played out, I managed to score it in the end anyway. So it's a bit of a shame, obviously, we couldn't actually do the job, but we were close enough, obviously, to take it in the end. And yeah, just really happy. I mean, I guess inaugural ASR Topor, and we've got a Kiwi on the top step for the very first one. So how good is that?
That's very good. And just overall for the year, we haven't quite worked out the full points as things sit, but as things are angling towards you, looking like a top 5 finish. That's a pretty good run. I mean, you would have liked to be up the pointy end a little bit more this year, but all things considered, I think that was a pretty good 2024 for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe might be my second year or the third year where I've hit 5. I think I've been 5 thereabouts for most years anyway. So I'm honestly really happy with how the year played out. Riddled with little things here and there and odd results where I'm off the back of the grid. But hey, that's racing. So had a ball, Roadie. Really enjoyed the racing this year. It's been great. So yeah, just stoked to be where I am, to be honest.
Awesome. And will we be seeing you and the Beyond crew back for 2025?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and the boys, Pete, Kane, and Cheese, at least, are all still pretty keen to do it. Obviously, been a little bit difficult this year with a few of the guys having conflicts with real life stuff. I think mostly Warriors things, but hey, that's it. That is what it is. But we're all still keen to carry on, so you'll most likely see us back next year.
That's good to hear. Well, great work tonight, Timmy, but also great work on picking up your first win. And we will catch you again in 2025.
Very good. Thanks, Freddie.
And finally, maybe not the most spectacular way to go about a title, but not unlike Max Verstappen, he did when he needed to, and Kurt Stenberg, it was pretty much official before you even started the last race tonight. But congratulations on your second ASR Supercars Championship title.
Third, mate.
Are you third? Sorry.
Third.
It's the
Third. Third. Sorry.
third.
You
I'm
are
the
third.
only-
Sorry.
Yep, I'm the only person who's won more than one, and it's number 3. So
Sorry. That's
yeah,
my mistake there. But yeah, picking up 3 is
yeah,
pretty good
no,
run.
it's pretty big to pick up 3, really, and non-consecutive too. So it's been really, unlike Max Verstappen, I've won mine a year apart every time.
Yeah,
Which is
Yeah.
kind of
2020, 2022, and 2024. I call it
I
on
only
the
win
broadcast.
even years.
Yeah.
I only win even years. I
Yep.
can't win odd ones. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I look. We knew we didn't need to do much tonight to secure the title. I mean, it was pretty much wrapped up at the last round. We was just waiting for penalties to see how it went out. I mean, to be honest, the plan tonight was to go out and try and win 2 races, but car felt really good. We had really good pace going into the round, but I kind of didn't get on the sim until late tonight due to some things that happened, and then we I don't know, the shootout, the car just didn't feel very well. I felt like I had no brakes, and race 1, I felt like we played ourselves into it. We played a really interesting strategy call, and hey, look, it was going to work. I made it home with 2 liters of fuel in the car. The problem was, it's the reason I dry pace dropped off so badly after wheel spun me. The rear tires were shagged. I had to look after them pretty heavily after that point. But fuel wise, we were actually really good. So we weren't burning as much as what we thought we were. So that's why I was like, we'll save as much as we can while we're in the lead. I had to try something. I actually was thinking, as much as I was thinking about winning the race, I was thinking about improving my grid position for the next race, because I went, well, it's actually quite difficult to pass at Adelaide, and we weren't going anywhere. But hey, look, we finished where we finished. We went to the next race. We thought we'd have a bit of crack at it, and I don't know, we just didn't have the pace. So that's where we were. So hey, look, most people P5 would be amazing to them, but it probably wasn't the best finish being our year. But we still finished on a pretty massive high, and like, look, we won the champion 4. I don't know whether we picked that up against the other car. That would have been. It was very tight though against 2-car teams. So single.
Yeah,
we were
we haven't got the
battle with
points
the CR
locked in yet, but you are in a I think you came into the last race with a what's that? It's a 15, about a 21 point gap. So it wouldn't be down. It wouldn't be much. I know Rutledge and Cox were running around the back end of the 10 and just off the 10 for most of that race. So it's possible. I think it'd come pretty close. But
Yeah.
you're right. To be battling with 2-car teams that are rocking up for most of the season as a single car driver, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, as I say, like, that wasn't a priority for us at all as a single car team. You're not looking at teams championship points because you know you got no chance. But I must admit, it was something I looked at during the week, and I went, well, we want to finish as high as we can. So that's pretty good effort. I mean, and we did try to get a second driver on board, but it just didn't happen. So incredible effort to win for the team in the first year, and yeah, our third title. So yeah, it's what a way to do it. Like, I've so much enjoyed racing this sim, and as Will said, like, honestly, he's been one of the reasons I've turned up. Like, we've raced each other for years, and he's been a competitor, and I would say that at times we haven't liked one another, but we've rocked up and we've raced against one another, and it's been great racing. So even sometimes it might not end in the best way, like race 1 tonight, but we rock up and we have a race against one another, and it's good fun. And that's when you've got that, that's why you do it. So
Absolutely. Well, I asked this question to everyone else, and I'm posing it to you with a little bit of insight on what your answer might be. I was watching a stream you were putting up a couple of weeks ago with the final race for ASC. What's 2025 looking like for you?
well, I will be honest. I was planning not to run any more of AMS. I was planning to not do it anymore. But I'm never. I said I retired 2 years ago, and I'm never going to say never, because the thing was, the challenge that brought me back this year was the new cars. I wanted to prove myself that I could win in something different, not just win in the Gen 2 car like the other ones. I wanted to prove I could win in something different, and I'm glad that I did, because this year was honestly a big struggle. I struggled with these cars. There's no lie. I was good at the tracks I was good at, but the tracks I wasn't good at, you can tell how I went. I struggled. So never going to say never, but I don't know if I'll be back. So yeah, it was ASC's obviously wound up. That was the end of us, and I picked up the title in that. So that's actually the first person that picked up the title in both. So that was pretty incredible to do, and I don't know. I think it might be a good time to end it. I'm not getting any faster, and the digits, the frontal digit of my age is changing over next year. So it's that means I'm officially old, apparently. So I don't know if how much longer I can do it for, but hey, look, if somebody rings me up and wants me to do a drive with them and a co-drive or race with them, I'm probably will come out and drive. So I will actually be straight up honest. This year was never intended to be a full championship tilt. I was just gonna race when I could, and it ended up turning into a championship. So you never know what happens in the universe. So, but it's been so enjoyable, and it has actually been good to race these cars. So to actually drive something different, I've said it on a few of my streams that these are one of the hardest cars I've actually driven in Automobilista. Like the way the car feels on the hard tire, the trail braking, it's harder to brake the car and get it stopped at the apex than iRacing, I feel, with whatever setups I've got. So big struggle for me, and it doesn't suit my driving style. But hey, look, when you've got a challenge like that, that's what keeps you coming back racing, to tinker with it, to work out how you can get around those things. And hey, we walked out on top, so that's where you want to be.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be a big question mark for you in 2025, and I suppose anyone that wants your services, they know where to find you. But as things sit, even if this is the end, you are the only multiple champion of the ASR Supercars Championship. You are the only 3-time champion, and it's going to take at least 2 years for somebody to try and beat that. Great work tonight and great work this year, Kurt, and we'll see what 2025 looks like for you.
No worries. Thanks, mate. And before we go, I just want to say 2 things. I want to thank Colin Warwick for his help this year. Unfortunately, he's very unwell, so he couldn't come and help me tonight, which is unfortunate. But he's been a massive help and part of why we've won races this year. And the second thing I want to say is I'm very dirty because I know Luke's got one more race win than me in the history of ASR, and I know that. And I'm dirty I didn't fix that tonight. So,
oh, well, 2025.
yeah, I know. Gotta get him. Gotta get him. Gotta fix that.
Alrighty. Great work, Kurt.
Thanks, guys.
And that has been our round review.
Thank you very much, Rody. It's always interesting getting some insight into everybody and what they have gone through over the course of not just a night's worth of racing, but a season's worth of racing. I think more importantly than anything else. We'll bid farewell to our 4 drivers for the moment, and actually, I was about to say I bid farewell to Rody for a moment, for a second.
You did there?
By accident, because everybody else was leaving, and I was moving everybody around. First and foremost, there are the usual things to say about the season. Yes, a season's worth of racing is over. A year's worth of racing is over in ASR officially now. So it's time for everybody to have a little bit of a break. From an ASR admin point of view, we're all going to probably sit down and have a nice drink and, just talk to each other and shoot the breeze for a little bit, because that's what December's there for. Like the last couple of seasons, we've always sat down halfway through December or too close to Christmas, and it just feels like everything comes back around again and we have to pick it up so quickly it's not funny. So it's nice to have a little bit of an extra break. It's good for everybody else to have a little bit of a break as well, because December is one of those times of year where you need it. So that's the first important thing. 2025, yes, the series will of course be back in 2025. In what capacity, I guess, is unknown at this stage. The same thing that we said for the development series a week ago was that we couldn't ensure or guarantee that there would be a broadcast. That's still the same thing, I guess, for Supercars next year as well. There has been a little bit of some circumstantial changes that have come up, so we'll wait and see how all of that pans out, but please still stay tuned to see how all of that unfolds over the coming sort of couple of weeks and months as everything gets worked out. My thanks, as always, to our title sponsors who have been always continuing to contribute year after year after year. That's Cam Rutledge from CRE Electrical and Peter Thrower from Beyond Electrical on the other side of the Tasman. A big thank you to both of them for their continual and ongoing support of ASR. A big thank you to those that came on board this year. So PCS, or Pallet Control Solutions, through Darren Kemp. And the other one, which was the Paint Doctor, with thank you to Daryl Callaghan for coming on board as well. Been great to have them around. Brendan Ross and Nathan Higginson, I don't know where I'd be without those guys, or I don't know where we'd be without those guys and the continual hours that they put into things, their wizardry of all things, doesn't matter whether they're cars, tracks, or just their general knowledge, is fantastic. A big thank you to Rhodey for not only commentating on this series, but also for all the work that he picked up, especially partway through the year when unfortunately Lewis Wedding decided to call time on his career in ASR as an admin, and even I think that even all of us knew that that time was coming. We just did not expect it to occur at the time that it did. A big thank you again to Lewis as well for everything that he did for this year and for the years gone past. I know we've seen him in the live stream chat every now and again, still tuning in, keeping an eye on things. So it's good to see you still in there, Lewis, but hopefully that work, that balance of life is much better for you than it has been over the last several seasons with all the work you've put in. A thank you to all the drivers that have participated this year, and a big thank you to you for watching and for continuing to tune in every year and every race. So once again, please drive safely, and we'll see you in 2025. Bye for now.